I am very sure that at the end of this day, we will have a mouthful of learning as budding journalists. I am Roda Kibulaso,
And I am Renny Boy Rico,
your
your
host
host
for
for this
this
webinar.
webinar. To confirm your attendance, kindly please type your complete name and school in the chat box including those who are watching us live through Pan Pacific University's Facebook page. Also, do not forget to share this live stream with the hashtag We Are Pan Pacifics, hashtag I Am Pioneer Compassion Service Truth, and hashtag Journalism Lecture Series 2022.
Please be informed that we will be distributing a public link where students could type in their questions and clarifications after the webinar. The link will be sent via chat box for Zoom participants and via comment section for those who are watching through Facebook Live.
To our dear participants, thank you for being patient with us. May we request all of you to please stand by and keep your camera open and microphone on mute as we are about to formally begin.
Let us put ourselves in silence as we pray, to be followed by the singing of the National Anthem. Let us remember that we are in the most holy presence of the Lord. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Dear God, we thank you for this week, and we offer you our works, joys, and challenges for today. We thank you for blessing us with the gift of life. We humbly ask you to lead us in our ways to be a pioneer, inflame our hearts with compassion, enrich our lives with service, and enlighten our minds with the truth. Guide us in every decision and conversation as you fill our hearts with your love and grace. Our Lasallian prayer. I will continue, O my God, to do all my actions for the love of you. Saint John Baptist de La Salle, pray for us. Live Jesus in our hearts forever. Amen. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
All right. To kick off this morning's program, we are pleased to have with us the very active and hardworking Dean of RPC for his opening remarks, Dr. Virgo C. Lopez.
Thank you so much, Rhoda and Rene. And isang mapagpalayang umaga po sa lahat. I am happy to see virtually my ate in journalism from the University of the Cordilleras, where she would be properly introduced later on. Hi, Ate Sharma. All right. I would like to greet everyone. I'm seeing several students, young minds coming from different universities. So this event's not limited to PanpacificU. I'm seeing students coming from PSU, all right? And I have seen a while ago LGU from a municipality. So this just goes to say that journalism pervades and it's not limited to campus journalism. Instead, this is really for everyone. This is for the purpose of disseminating information, inspiration, and insights when it comes to the necessary details that the people have to know, specifically our students. So on behalf of the Pan Pacific University Management, our president, Dr. Rhonda T. Padilla, our chief operating officer, Dr. Engelbert Pasag, and of course the members, the editorial board and staff, and the advisors of the Pioneer, the official student publication of the Romeo Padilla School of Education and Arts. I welcome everyone in this productive and of course timely and relevant event for everyone. Pre-pandemic, of course, all of us wanted to still participate into face-to-face, let's say, campus journalism events, more so press conferences in the different parts of the country, right? So nami-miss natin yon. I would like to see a thumbs up from our participants if you are one of those journalists who've been attending, let's say, press conference in the different parts of the country. Come on, may I see at least a thumbs up from our Zoom participants and from our viewers from Facebook? You may type in the chat box, for example, the last press conference or let's say Luzon-wide for our college students that you have attended. So sa amin siguro ni Ate Sharma, the last time I've attended was in 2012. And Ate Sharma, how about you? 1972? No, I'm kidding. So these are really gatherings, right, or events where we're not just competing with our fellow journalists. Instead, this is a gathering of minds with the purpose of expressing ourselves and, of course, disseminating information necessary to educate minds and to inspire hearts and to transform lives, if I may say so. So there are also English majors here, right? The students who are probably were required to attend, but I hope more than the requirement and more than the compliance, I hope you have that passion and purpose for writing, may it be in news writing or what have you. And today the focus would be sports writing and literary writing. Now, when it comes to sports, it's where news and feature are also integrated. Anyway, our speaker, our able speaker would be discussing more on this. But I would like to tell us that with the win, all right, of the first Olympic gold medalist, Idilin Diaz, how many of us would strengthen, for example, our hope for our ability to be at par in the international arena when it comes to sports if this is not being cascaded or disseminated through writing or sports feature and the like. So nakikita natin dito ang kahalagahan ng pagsusulat para nang sa ganon patuloy pa rin tayong magbasa. Now, with a yes or no via chatbox or via our Facebook page in our live stream, I would like to know, meron pa rin bang nagbabasa? Do you still read newspapers? Do you still read at least articles, may it be e-copy or the physical ones? I would like to know, is it a yes or a no? All right. So while waiting, it is a reflection for all of us. So kung wala na bang nagbabasa, ibig sabihin, do we stop writing? Ayan. Or do we continue and transform the ways we write in the new normal or amidst the pandemic and beyond? So probably there are updates on how we could hook our readers that with the emergence of social media, should we also transform digitally that I think other entities have been doing? And when it comes to campus press, should we stop dahil online na tayo, wala nang nadidistribute ng mga school paper? So should we do away from this tradition that is deeply rooted, for example, in the system in order for us to have watchdog, for example, in the school systems and processes? So these are just questions that we have to reflect on. And I'm happy that with the 57 participants via Zoom and our viewers on Facebook, we hope that we continuously ignite and redefine our roles as campus journalists. And if we, for example, have our let's say, naglaylo tayo in the past, this is already an avenue for us to, as I said, reignite that fire of writing. Okay, so I would like to congratulate the pioneer from the name of our student publication. They have innovated, right? They have initiated this event, and we hope as well that our students from PSU and the other universities here could also invite us in return for us to share best fit practices when it comes to campus journalism. After all, we have our common goal. And as I said, through our pens, through our minds, is to inspire, to inform, to educate our counterparts, our fellow students in the time of the coming election and with all the societal issues that we have right now, information matter, right? And how do we actually share that? So we are privileged actually to become campus journalists, to be given that power to really inspire and to inform So sana wag nating sayangin yung pagkakataon na yon. And in order for us to serve better our fellow students is for us to continuously hone our skills. If you're a budding journalist, who knows, you have a great potential to be discovered this time. Who knows you are good at sports writing, or you are really a great mind in literary writing. You just have to have this avenue to actually know that. So I hope it might be destiny that you're here, or it might be intentional that you're here. It might be a requirement that you're here, but we should all go beyond this. We should like this. We should have the purpose of doing this. So without much ado, I'm just happy to reminisce my time as a student journalist as well, and seeing the young ones right now. And I think Ate Sharma would share the same thing. We are inspired to do more and to continue doing what we have started and what we love, and that's journalism. And to end my speech, I hope you have a fruitful time. We have more to come, and do not just limit it into one aspect of writing. If you can learn all, and then from there you decide what aspect or what, let's say, event you are good at. If you have multiple skills, then so be it. So marami pong naghihintay sa inyong mga sulatin, sa mga literary work na pwedeng makapag-inspire sa estudyanteng ayaw na mag-aral. Or for example, someone who's losing hope in this pandemic, and with your words, through your poem, through your narratives, through your short stories, you might touch one heart or one life, and that's more than enough for us to continue writing. On that note, congratulations, the pioneer, the Pan Pacific University. Thank you so much to the management for allowing us to have this event, and to our participants, this is all for you. And after all, learning is sharing. So after you learn something here, spread the good news, spread the competencies you've learned para mas marami pong magsulat para po sa ikabubuti ng lahat. Maraming salamat and have a great day ahead.
Thank you so much, Dr. Virgo, for gracing us all today with your warm welcome and very informative message for everyone. But before we go to the main climax, or to the main part of this session, as of this moment, joined with us today are budding journalists from PSU Bayambang. Kindly give me a purple heart emoji to be recognized. Okay. We also have another group of journalists from Samar Colleges Incorporated. Kindly give me a party popper emoji. Let us all welcome them. Next up, those who are from the University of Baguio. Let us hear you by commenting and giving us a like emoji. Oh, there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. We also have participants from PCNHS. Can I have a blue heart emoji? Well, of course, we also have to welcome participants from BULSU. We also have participants from LGU, from municipality, and from Beckes Elementary School, and other school who are with us today. Welcome, and hope you will enjoy the entirety of this session. Well, of course, not to forget those who are watching us live outside Pan Pacific University. We would love to acknowledge you by commenting your school or university that you are affiliated with. All right. Okay, so our target for today's webinar is primarily focused on developing creativity through sports and literary writing. These are the topics that will be shared to us by our first speaker. And to keep the ball rolling, let's welcome one of the active faculty members of RPC and one of the technical advisors of the Pioneer, Mr. Rodlan Alvindo, to introduce to us our speaker for today.
All right, good morning, Mr. Reniba, and good morning, dear participants. It is actually my pleasure to actually give you an opportunity to feel excited, as our speaker for today is a registered criminologist. And yes, you heard that right, a registered criminologist. She was formerly one of the editors of The Alternative, the official student publication of the University of the Cordilleras. She was also the former editor-in-chief of The Sleuth, the official student publication of University of Cordilleras College of Criminal Justice Education. She was the former staff writer of Sunstar Baguio and the former contributor for Baguio Midland Courier. Now, a member of the UBBOG Cordillera Young Writers Group and part of the editorial staff of Fight News Asia International Sports News Portal, and also the current president of the World Council for Combat Sports Philippine chapter. An athlete, a coach, a promoter. Ladies and gentlemen, without much ado, let me give the screen now to none other than Miss Sharma Devaya. May we give her our warmest clap and party popper emoji, everyone.
And good morning, everyone. Am I audible enough? Am I clear enough?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, apologies. Medyo sanay yata ako sa mga estudyante ko that whenever I do the audio or I turn on my microphone, I have to ask them, am I audible enough? And then it would take them like 10 seconds to get back at me and say, yes, ma'am, you're audible enough. But I understand everybody is on mute here, so you can just give me emojis. Like if I ask a question, am I audible enough? You can just give me an emoji, whatever emoji that you want to give me to. And yeah, thank you very much. It's nice to see you again, Dr. Virgo. At hindi ako sanay na tawagin kang Dr. Virgo. Although, yeah, we just call him Virgo. We call him VG sometimes in school and everywhere else. Been a long-time friend of ours as well. And yeah, just lately, last year ko lang yata nalaman that he is with Pan Pacific pala. He's been overseas kasi, international, si Dr. Virgo. So it's good to see are you settling down with Pan Pacific now? I hope so. And welcome everyone. I thought I was going to talk to Pan Pacific University students only. Hindi ko alam na open pala. But anyways, for our discussion today, bear with me. There are a lot of things that I might not be able to share with a very limited time. Hindi kasi kakasya yung ilang oras lang to discuss even one topic. Like for example, sports writing lang, hindi kasya yung like 2 to 4 hours na discussion about it. But we will try to put in a gist kung ano man yung mga pwede nating pag-aralan. And I understand that you guys will have to do a workshop later on. I'm not so sure if this is mandatory to every participant, but yeah, we will do a workshop later on that is based on our discussions. And as they have mentioned a while ago, I think it's Dr. Virgo that you will be keying in your questions dito sa ating chat box and sa Facebook Live ng ating university. And so I can see familiar names. One of my sisters is actually here, and some students from the University of Baguio, from Pangasinan State University, and there are a lot others in here that I am seeing, and so I'm surprised and I'm so happy that you are here, although I'm a little bit nervous because this is no longer just for students, so it would take a lot more courage to talk about this. Anyways, thank you, Sir Rodlan, also. I was pronouncing the name Roldan earlier, but I saw it's it's Rodlan. So Sir Rodlan, thank you for the introduction. And sabi ko kay Virgo, sana hindi yun yung introduction, but mapilit si Virgo. Anyways, pwede ba akong magtanong kung ano yung gusto nyong unahin natin? Ano yung mga emoji natin dito? Tignan natin. Sabi nung sa mga technicals natin kanina, party popper na emoji if you want literary writing. Kapag walang emoji, sports writing ang uunahin natin. So can you give me a party popper emoji if you want the literary writing first? Walang emoji. So sports writing ang uunahin natin. I'll give you like 5 seconds to do a party popper emoji if you'd like the literary writing first. Wala akong nakikitang emoji. So I think it's safe to say you'd like to hear about the sports writing first. Let me open my sports writing then. Okay, so here we go. Sports writing is one of my very personal thing that I always do, and I write. Let me share my screen with you. Ayan, kita na ba? Give me an emoji pag kita na, ladies and gents. Thank you so much sa mga nagre-react. Yan. Ito yung medyo haggard kapag katulad naming mga like instructors. Yung mga college students, medyo mahirap silang magbigay ng emoji. You have to tell them over and over again to respond to the emoji, and that's okay with me. Sanay na tayo dyan. Mga estudyante ko minsan kapag sinabi ko at the start of the class, at the start of the discussion, dapat may ganito. Tapos saka na lang nila ginagawa right after the discussion, so that's okay with me. Feel free to interrupt sa ating mga technicals if you'd have questions that you'd like to key in. And also Dr. Virgo and Sir Rodlan, if you have things that you'd like to insert. So let's start first with sports writing. A lot of people would say, siguro pati sa mga school journalists, that it is one of the easiest things to write. And for me personally, yes, it is an easy thing to write. And at the same time, this is the hardest. Let me tell you why sports writing is actually the hardest or the easiest. Let's take first, what is sports? What are sports, rather? So ano yung sports na sinasabi natin? Kapag tinatanong kayo or kapag nababasa nyo, pag nakikita nyo yung sports, automatic yan. Pumapasok sa isip natin, these are physical activities. Yan. Ano yung pinakaunang sports na pumapasok sa isip natin? Alam ko naman yung isip nyo, basketball. Ayan. So almost everyone in the Philippines know about basketball or know that basketball is a sports. Not everyone is knowledgeable though about the rules of basketball, about the do's and don'ts of basketball, and the specific things or ideas about basketball. But they know, or you guys know, that basketball is a sports. And that is correct because as defined, sports is an activity that involves physical exertion, skills, in which individuals could compete, or a group of individuals, which we call team, can compete against each other or against other teams. So maraming purposes din ang sports. Kasama kasi yung purposes na yan when we discuss about sports. So unang-una, para saan nga ba yung sports na yan? Siyempre, competition yan for the win. Yung other sports naman is for entertainment. Meron po bang sports na for entertainment? Yes. Do you guys watch WWE or have you ever heard of WWE? It's the World Wrestling Entertainment. So, nakalagay pa nga doon yung entertainment. But actually, that is a sport because it entails disciplines of wrestling and it entails different other sports activities, but that is only for entertainment. So yung mga napapanood natin na it's for the belt, the competition, that is just a part of the entertainment process. So I hope you guys got what sports is. Very simple lang. Dami ko nang sinabi, no? Pero simple lang. Ang sports, these are the activities that includes yung physical exertion, that includes skills, of course, either for competition or for entertainment. Yun ang sports. And did you know, guys, that there are artifacts and structures that China is one of the earliest countries that had sports in their culture. Yan. There had been a long time debate around the world na sino daw ang mga nauna. Nauna daw ang mga Greco because, they were the ones that established yung Olympics, which is one of the biggest sports events in the world today or in the entire universe today. There are also debates na nauna din daw yung mga Persians because allegedly there were artifacts, scrolls that were discovered in their places that says that they had sports in their culture, in their routines, in the early ages. Yan. Pero kung pagsama-samahin natin yung mga artifacts around the world, it is the Chinese people that has the earliest sports in the entire world. So unang-una sa mga laro nila is yung gymnastics. Siguro yun yung dahilan kung bakit, they're the leading country pagdating sa gymnastics. Nakikita natin yan sa Olympics. As early as 8 years old, nag-gold medal sa kanila sa Olympics, Team China. And that Greece naman, kahit kiniklaim nila na sila yung nauuna, they came in later on. Although, galing naman talaga sa kanila, yung Olympics nga na tinatawag natin. Olympics is actually an event of sports. Very few lang dati nung in-start ito ng Greece. Every 4 years yung ginagawa. And up to now naman, it is practiced every 4 years. And it actually happened. It was a very small village in Greece that is called Olympia. That's why, the name Olympics. Ganyan. Sila yung nag-pioneer ng sports na yan. And they started with around 4 to 7 sports around that time. I forgot how many exactly. And they came in a little bit of years later than the Chinese. And also there were facts that were discovered in Egypt, another one of the countries na nagsimula din ng mga sports early than the other. So swimming and fishing naman yung mga evident na sports dun sa kanila. Egypt, Nile River and the other rivers that surrounds Egypt. Kaya siguro meron silang swimming early on because of the presence of these geographical entities. Ayan, medyo kalatian ha. Meron kasi akong in-insert dyan ng mga photos, but tinanggal ko na lang because we're going to do a workshop later on. Papakita ko yung photos sana. This, nakikita niyo sa inyong mga screen, ayan yung mga, hindi naman top 10, mga super popular sports around the world. So FIFA? I hope you know FIFA. That is the biggest football competition in the world. And that happens just like Olympics every 4 years. Yan. And yung FIFA pa na yan, hindi lahat nakakapasok. So screened sila per region like Southeast Asia. Pag pumasa yung Team Philippines sa Southeast Asia, they go to Asian qualification. Pag pumasok sila sa Asian qualification, they will have to go through tournaments, again, to be qualified dun sa mga top soccer teams to play in FIFA. So that happens every 4 years. The lengthy process makes it very exciting to watch. That makes it, people would like to watch who these best teams around the world are. And, sad to say, hindi tayo nakakaabot dun sa FIFA. Although, sa mga Asian scenes, natatalo naman natin yung mga powerhouse dito sa Asia entirely, like Japan, like South Korea. Sila kasi yung medyo malalakas ang soccer teams. UEFA is the same. This is European Football Association Champions League. This is a very big organization in Europe as well. And if you ever follow just one soccer page on Facebook, nag-a-appear lagi yung UEFA. Mas nag-a-appear pa yan kesa sa FIFA. They have updates every second, every hour. Just like now, mainit na kasi yung last stage of qualification for the football teams around the world para ma-qualify sa FIFA. And isa yung dadaanan muna nila is yung UEFA Champions League na yan. So isa yan sa mga maiingay ngayon. Tour de France, I hope you know that, cycling. And maraming sumasali na Filipino naman dito, pero sadyang magagaling ang ibang tao about when it comes to cycling. Piolo Pascual, I forgot the name of the Senator Pia Cayetano. Hindi naman sila nag-Tour de France, but they're the ones na gustong-gusto yung mga ganitong competitions like cycling. And then rugby. Rugby is different from soccer. I hope you guys know that. The rugby is this sport with the elongated ball. Meron kasi yung mga others that they separate football from soccer, but they football and rugby are the same. Football and soccer are the same. Rugby is different. Then we have, of course, NBA. Alam niyo yan. Baka nga may mga favorite teams kayo. Mine is Spurs. They're not really winning right now, but I hope they do. So alam siguro naman natin yung National Basketball Association na yan. And And from our school before, kapag meron kasi kaming local competitions here in the Cordilleras, it's called BBL, Baguio Benguet Educational Athletic League. And isa ang school namin, of course, dun sa nga medyo malalakas. And I hope Pan-Pacific, I would see Pan-Pacific also dun sa mga competitions. Like, meron kayong competitions in our Region 1 that belongs only to Region 1, just like us. And I think nakikita ko naman yung name ng Pan-Pacific. Of course, Wimbledon. Kapag mahilig kayo sa lawn tennis or kahit di kayo mahilig, pag narinig nyo naman siguro yung mga pangalan ng Williams sisters, Roger Federer, Rafael Nadal, and meron tayong mga athletes right now who are studying at the Rafael Nadal Academy in Spain na mga lawn tennis players. 2 females are competing right now, one in Thailand and one in Europe, and that they wanted to join Wimbledon someday. Formula 1, this is a car racing, although I do not really watch so much on this Formula 1, and to be honest with you, I have limited knowledge about the rules of Formula 1, although I know the basics because it's very popular, and as a sports writer, sometimes you have to know even the basics of the sports that you're not interested in. May natatakpan dyan yung Super Bowl. Lolo kasi yung anak ko kagabi. Let's cover this. But that is Super Bowl, actually. That is one also of the popular footballs around the world that is joined by like Stephen Curry. Stephen Curry is a basketball star, pero interested siya masyado dito sa Super Bowl. So that is one of those. And of course, yung Olympics na tinatawag natin. I think this is where you guys are so familiar with. Dito sa lahat ng sinulat ko na mga top sports around the world is, I think you are familiar with this one. One is yung binanggit ni Dr. Virgo kanina is yung the winning of gold of Miss Hidilyn Diaz. That was history for the entire universe. Hindi pa lang naman sa Philippines because that's our very first gold. Pero actually, meron na tayong gold beforehand. Hindi nga lang siya recorded as official. So one is in Wushu. Nag-gold tayo in 2008 Beijing Olympics, dun sa Beijing, China. We got 1 gold for Wushu, pero exhibition sports lang kasi yung Wushu. That is why it's not on official record, pero meron na tayo niyan. Meron na rin tayo sa track and field before. Earlier pa ito than Wushu, mas nauna. Pero again, hindi siya recorded as official. So, ang pinaka-first na official na gold ng Philippines is yung kay Miss Hidilyn Diaz. And there are others, like if you are interested with martial arts or mixed martial arts, we have UFC, we have One Championship, and the likes. And if you are interested about also water sports, meron tayo yung tinatawag natin diving, in which yung World Championships happened in the Philippines in 2018, I think. This was just months before the pandemic. Or I think this was during the pandemic nga eh. Yung World Diving Sports Championship ginanap dito sa Palawan. There are other sports na familiar din. Pero nilagay ko lang yung mga, I think, narinig ninyo or at least nababasa ninyo. Ayan, naladaanan ko na. And then, what is sports writing naman? Ngayong na-define na natin kung ano ang sports at nakita na ninyo ang sports. Malawak super ang sports. It is not even defined in the dictionary that as it is. Kasi kapag sinabi mo, it is just a physical activity, marami pang questions yan actually. Pero i-contain lang natin doon ha, doon sa na-define natin kanina that it is a physical activity that requires, physical exertion and skills. So pag ganyan ang definition ng sports, ano naman ang sports writing? Simple, you just have to write about the sports. Correct, di ba? That is very simple. Kaya nga maraming nagsasabing this is the easiest part of journalism to write. But let me tell you that it is the hardest and it is also the easiest. So sports writing is also storytelling. Yan, sorry, baka may hindi nakakaintindi pala sa inyo ng Ilocano. Hindi storytelling na kagaya ng pagkukwento ng mga lolos and lolas natin, ha? Hindi kagaya ng gaya ng pagkukwento ng kapitbahay natin. Although yung kinuwento halimbawa ng kapitbahay ninyo is kung papaano nanalo yung team ng barangay nyo doon sa liga. Yan. It's a little bit of different, but it's a little bit of similar as well. Yan. Kapag sinabi nating storytelling, meron siyang kasamang journalistic writing style or journalistic writing ways. Mag-i-incorporate ka ng style ng journalism dito. Ano yung mga kasama? Siyempre, sports lingos, hindi mawawala yan sa pagsusulat ng sports. For example, sa basketball, wherein everybody's, I think, familiar. Ano yung mga sports lingos ng basketball na pwedeng meron sa ibang sports, pwede ring wala? Dribbling, 3-point shot, come from behind win. What else? Yung buzzer beater, yan. Isa yun sa mga favorite ko nung college when I was writing still for the alternative. Kapag merong ganyan, parang ang sayang isulat niyan. Kasi yung buzzer beater, hindi masyadong nakikita sa ibang sports. Like baseball, wala namang buzzer beater sa baseball. Ba? Sa soccer, for example, although kapag may goal sa soccer, tapos the very last second, pero hindi kasi nila tinatawag na buzzer beater yan. So kapag nagsa-storytelling ka, you're writing about sports in a journalistic writing way, you have to know about the sports lingos. Hindi man ibig sabihin na dapat alam mo lahat. Parang meron ka lang at least 10 words in your vocabulary regarding a specific sports. Yan. Ang favorite sports ko, martial arts, for example. Marami pa yung martial arts, ha? Iba-iba pa yan. Yung boxing, halimbawa, 3-second ay yung knockout. Yung knockout, makikita mo rin yan sa ibang sports like sambo, wushu, what else? Taekwondo and others. Pero meron kasi yung specific na para sa boxing lang. Like yung 1-2 combo. Wala namang 1-2 combo sa wushu. Wala namang 1-2 combo, for example, sa martial arts because that is specific. Makikita lang yan dun sa specific na sports. So as a sports writer, when you are storytelling, you have to have in your pocket at least 10 lingos or 10 specific terms concerning that sports. Medyo yun yung nahihirapan yung karamihan na sports writers. And to tell you honestly, kapag pinagsusulat ako dati, nung nasa Sunstar ako, Charms, cover mo nga yung golf sa John Hay. Tapos ako parang, no, give that to others. I really do not like golf. Besides, for me personally, baka may nag-golf dyan sa inyo, no offense. Personally kasi medyo, if you are in martial arts, golf is something not so active. And then, because I'm not so interested in the sports, I wasn't so interested in learning the lingos like the birdie, par. But I have to learn those because I am a sports writer. And kahit hanggang ngayon, na wala na ako sa Sunstar, limited siguro sa less than 10 yung alam ko na sports lingos about this specific na golf. With all honesty yun about this lingos na ito. But as sports writers, as budding sports writers, this is what I can tell you. I can share you with at least, pocket lingos. Lalo na pag, for example, pupunta kayo ng competitions, those are very important. You cannot do a sports writing or storytelling in sports without those style. Yan. And the next one in here, I have put in here yung easiest and the hardest. Kanina ko pa ito sinasabi, di ba? Easy to tell, yung sports. Very easy to tell. Sabihin mo lang, for example, si Dr. Virgo, sumali siya doon sa lawn tennis competition ng Region 1, nag-champion siya. Very easy to tell that Dr. Virgo, Dean of SEA of the Pan-Pacific University, outclassed or edged out his longtime rival, Pangasinan State University, to capture the Wimbledon title. Parang ganon. Sabihin na natin ganon. Example ko lang kasi kayong nakikita ko sa inyong mga screen. There's no offense meant tayo dito. For example, diba, very easy to tell, nananalo yung isang tao about the sports. You know what's hard to do? It's hard to write. If you are writing it na sinulat mo na yung sinabi ko halimbawa, yan, i-edit mo pa yan, babalikan mo pa yan, parang may mali. Ano yung mali? Mali kasi hindi ko nilagay yung score. Mali kasi hindi ko nilagay yung place, for example. So you see, sports stories are the easiest to tell. Mas easy pa nga ito kaysa sa dun sa straight news. Na for example, nanalo si BBM dito sa election. Very big news yun ha. Pero mas mahirap isulat yung news na yun kaysa dun sa sports story. Kung saan magsa-champion si Pacquiao ulit sa ring, halimbawa. Diba? It's very hard to write and it's easy to tell. And another one, it's hard to record, but it's easy to watch. Ayun. This one naman is for those that are watching the sports live or on set. Yan. Pumunta ka, nanood ka ng NBA sa Las Vegas, for example. It's very easy to watch kasi alam mo yung rules. Napapasigaw ka pa nga na, ops, 3 points. 3 points na pasa. Diba? May mga ganun tayo kahit dito sa local pag nanonood ka. Kahit ako, medyo hindi ko alam yung iba, for example. Pasa mo, pasa. Sa likod. Diba? Ganun. Kasi parang nagiging familiar ka dun sa sports. Pero when it comes to recording, medyo mahirap-hirap yun. Like, sinusulat mo, for example, anong number nung jersey number, anong pangalan nung athlete na nagpasa, nag-assist, at nakapagbigay sa kanila ng 3-point shot. Medyo mahirap yung ganun ng mga i-record. And those are the minute details na kailangan pag nagsusulat ka dun sa sports. Ang daling panoorin, pwede mo nga ikwento buong-buo yung from first inning hanggang last. Pero yung mga na-record mo, pag binabalikan mo, mahirap. Baka may mga na-omit ka pa. Kadalasan sa akin when I record yung mga ganito, ang na-omit ko is yung score. I do not really look at the scores. For example, first inning ng basketball, 30-33 sila. Na-record ko naman na 30-33, for example. Pero kanino nang galing yung last 3? Kanino nang galing yung last 5 points, for example? Those are details kasi na kailangan mong isulat kapag gusto mong magsulat ng play-by-play later on na news, sports news. And so again, this is both the easiest and the hardest thing to write when it comes to writing sa mga parts ng newspaper. There are 5 types of sports stories. Double S talaga yan, nananadya ako. 4 pa nga yan dapat, pero hindi kasi kasya yung space kasi sports stories. So, ano yung mga types of sports stories? There are other speakers that would like to discuss that there are more than 5 types, more than 5 styles of sports stories, but I think it is safe for journalists in school like you guys to take a look at these 5 important or yung 5 na pinaka-ginagamit when it comes to writing sports stories for school papers and for competitions as well. So tignan natin yung una, yung straight news format. Yung straight lead game na ito is ilagay mo lang kung ano yung mga dapat mong ilagay. For example, is yung who won, who lost, and what game it is. What game is it, rather. Yan. Hindi kailangan dito sa straight lead game na to is kailangan ka kasing sagutin when you are writing like the 5 W's and 1 H. We will take a look at that later when we go to writing it. Dito sa straight lead na ito na tinatawag natin, hindi mo na kailangan sagutin lahat yung 5 na agad na yan. Una mong ilagay, kasi syempre sa sports, may mananalo, may matatalo, right? Like, most likely kapag 2 teams lang yan, like basketball, na championship, baseball na championship, lawn tennis, table tennis na championship. Yan. Except of course kapag maramihan silang nagko-compete, like gymnastics, kinukuha lang dyan yung top 3, gold, silver, bronze. Kalimitan pa yung bronze kapag more than 10 yung participants, ginagawang 2 yan dun sa bronze. My first bronze, second bronze, ganyan. But anyways, let's focus on the who won. Yan. So nanalo ang Pan Pacific, I forgot, Gritty Sharks, right? You're called Gritty Sharks. The Pan Pacific Gritty Sharks outclassed the University of the Cordilleras Jaguars. Yan. To claim the palarong pambansa title. Yan, for example. Yung mga college naglaro sa palarong pambansa. But anyways, ganon. Doon sa straight lead game na yun, kailangan mong isalpak lang. Who won, who lost, what game. Pwedeng yun lang ang ilagay mo doon. Kung very short pa yun at pwede pa siyang madagdagan, pwede mo ring ilagay yung date, pwede mo ring ilagay yung venue. On April 30, 2022 at the Baguio Convention Center. Yan, for example. Like, may katatapos na event dyan sa inyo it was organized by one of our friends, Mr. Eric Angyab, one of the instructors ata sa CCGE ng sports. And so meron siyang inorganize dyan sa Pan Pacific University that is, we have been organizing that kasi dito, tas binaba niya yung kickboxing ba? And boxing dyan sa Pan Pacific University. So you'd like to write about it, for example, as a student journalist, or kinumission ka ng, I'm not so familiar, I apologize, yung mga local newspapers ng Dagupan. Sa amin kasi meron yung Sunstar, tsaka yung Midland that is circulating around Cordilleras na may mga local writers. So kapag kinukommission kami to go write, we have to know about the details. Minsan shotgun pa nga na, may event ngayon, punta ka, i-cover mo. So parang for example sa inyo dyan, mga local newspaper writers and also student writers ng student publication, you were tasked to write about it. And you'd like to do a straight lead na news. Ilagay mo lang kung sino yung mga nanalo, sino nag-organize, at kailan, saan. Okay na yun dun sa straight lead na yan. Okay? So I hope you got yung straight lead natin. Nasa word itself, straight lead, you have to present to your readers, to your audience, the straight information or the straight facts of that news or that specific sports news. Yan. So punta lang tayo sa profile. Sometimes I like writing profiles. And yeah, right now I'm writing for Fight News Asia. This is an international platform that we write about martial arts lang around the world. Sorry sa mga hindi mahilig sa martial arts, but martial arts lang kasi yung sinusulat namin. And we do a lot of profile stories. And this is what I love to do. Sa profile stories kasi dito is you have to key in, from the name itself, profiles of either the individuals or yung group na gusto mong i-feature. So this falls most of the time under feature ng sports stories or feature sports feature. Yan. So halimbawa si Pacquiao ang ipo-profile mo. Although Pacquiao is, in the martial arts circle, it's a boring topic kapag profile na yung pinag-uusapan kasi alam na ng lahat ang story ni Pacquiao. Unless may bago sa story niya, like for example, hindi pala si Jinky ang asawa niya. 'Di ba? Bago 'yan. And if you're going to put that in the profile, sana hindi. That is new information, babasahin ng mga tao 'yan. So pag nagpo-profile ka, yung mga nauna nang nakapag-profile kay Pacquiao, like saan siya nanggaling, paano niya na-overcome yung kanyang mga hirap, and paano siya nag-boxing until the point na kumuha na siya ng senatorial seat hanggang ngayon na tumatakbo na siya for presidential ball. Yan yung mga profile ng sports people na kadalasan is sinusulat under feature. When Hidilyn Diaz won the very first gold, ang daming gumawa ng profile sports stories about Hidilyn Diaz. Yan. Yung isa sa mga yon is yung how was she able to be discovered. Yeah. So Hidilyn Diaz was just one of us athletes. Isa yan sa mga nakikitambay dun sa mga classrooms kapag naglalaro. Batang Pinoy, she was discovered in Batang Pinoy, and that there were a very few female na weightlifters during that time, bilang na bilang sa kamay. Like for example, dun sa timbang niya na 50 kg to 52 is 5 lang sila around the Philippines na nagko-compete. Yan. So 3 lang silang parang talagang competitor, yung 2 sali na lang. I mean, this is not to, outclass those athletes that would like to join, but there are types of athletes like that. Personal experience as well. So yung sa 5 kasamahan ni Hidilyn Diaz, silang 3 lang yung parang competitive. And imagine mo dun sa tatlo na yun is siya yung kinakitahan nung talagang passion, nung talagang, flex fit ng katawan to be one of the weightlifters. That is her story and that is true. Hidilyn Diaz din, dun sa Philippine Sports Commission, whenever we go there is, ano lang yan, nasa gilid lang, ngiti-ngiti sa gilid, ganyan. She doesn't even exude the aura of one day becoming the first gold medalist of the Philippines. But she did. She did, and she won. And that is one of those profile stories na gustong isulat ng mga sports writers. Yes. Parang sa Pan Pacific University, I'm not so sure of ano yung mga magagandang sports sa Pan Pacific. So like for example, sabihin na natin yung Gritty Sharks ninyo, they have overcome a lot of obstacles from scratch, naging champion sila, and then ayun, magko-qualify na yung iba sa PBA for example. Those could be great profile stories as well. And then feature, this is one of the favorites as well of the writers. Yung profile at feature almost the same because this is a profile, parang fini-feature mo yung writer. Although sa profiling, you have to put in personal information about the individual or about the group that you are writing about. Sa feature naman, hindi kailangang ilagay mo yung profile per se nung sinusulat mo na individual or sinusulat mong groups. Pwede mo lang silang i-feature on why or how they have won the Philippine National Games, for example. Parang halimbawa yung gymnastics team ninyo nag-champion bigla, tinalo nila yung long-time reigning na Ilocos Norte gymnasts. You could feature that by describing their trainings, pero hindi naman necessary na ipo-profile mo. This is one of the favorite of most sports writers that I have seen because it's easy to write, it's easy to do because you just have to do a research on this one. And then we have yung season preview and wrap-up stories, the pre and after game naman na ito. Season preview usually, ano yung mga larong may seasons. Yan. Kapag local tayo, I hope you are familiar like palarong pambansa. They happen, example is October. So yung pre-season yan, all the months before October, pre-season yan ng palarong pambansa. So if you want to write about the basketball of the palarong pambansa, paano yung pre-season nila or yung pre-game nila? Paano yung mga preparations nila? Tapos, nung natapos naman yung laro at gusto mo pa rin isulat about the basketball, for example, wrap-up stories. Sino, may bagong champion ba? Nasilat ba yung dating championship slot? Sino yung mga nanalong bago? Or nag-retain ba yung mga champions? Parang sa school nyo din. If you are competing with other universities, for example, kayo yung champion, PanpacificU, tapos biglang nakuha ng PSU, for example, yung championship ninyo sa, let's say, volleyball girls. Ayan. I-describe mo yung pre-season or pre-event ng inyong team, if that's what you write about, yung team ninyo. And then yung wrap-up story. Why did they lose? How? What are the reasons? Ganyan. Ito yung mga sinusulat ng mga nag-aabang ng mga seasonal na may mga seasons na laro. Like before NBA, after NBA. Kasi before NBA, may mga drafting tayo. And then yung regular season. Ayan. And then playoffs, di ba? Tas championship na, ganyan. And then we have columns. These are most likely done by sports editors. It's coming from their sports desk. It is most of the time their opinions, self-opinions ito. In here, sa column na to, mayroong mga nagtatanong, pag sa column mo ba pwede kang maging bias? It is your personal opinion naman. So I think personal opinions are always, self-opinion are sometimes or most of the time biased. Kasi personal opinion mo yan eh. Sa sports, ganun din. Pero ang kahibahan nito is they base their opinions on mostly the facts, mostly the past events. Yan. Halimbawa, nagko-column ka about doon kay Pacquiao running as president. Pero sports parang tinignan mo yung background niya sa sports. Tinignan mo yung mga nailatag ng batas halimbawa sa sports. Ngayong senator pa siya. Nilagay mo yun sa column mo. At naglagay ka ng opinion mo na noong boxingero siya, parang mas marami siyang nagawa. Kesa nung senator siya, naupo nga siya, wala naman siyang nagawang batas. Parang ganun. You have to back those, hindi naman siya matatawag na accusations eh. You have to base those or back those statements with facts. Yan. Yun yung mga hindi masyadong nilalagay ng mga columnists. Kaya medyo safe side, kapag kayo nagsusulat kayo ng sports columns, express your opinion, but segue lang or layo lang konti doon sa mga hindi nyo kabisado or hindi kayo sure na mga sinusulat. Yan. Baka naman nilagay nyo na yung school ninyo hindi binibigyan ng budget. Halimbawa, yung basketball team nyo lagi namang nananalo. Ayan. Kasi sports column galit na galit ka dun sa mga naririnig mo kasi hindi nga binibigyan ng budget, for example. Tapos kayo, nananalo naman. Nagsulat ka ngayon. Yan. Medyo dangerous ang sports columns, ladies and gents, ha? But if you'd like to stick with writing columns, as is kasi kami rin sa UC before, hindi kasi ako ang sports editor literary ako. Sa sports editor namin, kapag nagsusulat siya, nakikita ko naman sa kanya is, hindi siya yung masyadong opinionated. Parang naglalagay lang siya ng facts, naglalagay lang siya ng konting opinion. So very safe side. Yun ang may papayo ko when it comes to this column na part. Ayan, so key concepts na tayo. Parts of the stories. Lead. Alam niyo na to yung lead. 5 W's and 1 H. This is an example like the Pan-Pacific British Sharks poured in 5 baskets to gill out the Jaguars. I forgot to put in yung UC, but to gill out the UC Jaguars in the last minute with a score of 70-75 at the opponent's home court on Tuesday. Lead. Sinasagot natin yung 5 W's and 1 H. Alam niyo na siguro yung 5 W's, right? The who, why, what, where, when. And then yung ating 1 H is yung how. Question, kailangan bang ilagay lahat yung 5 W's and 1 H kapag naglalagay ka sa lead? No, it's not a mandatory or it's not a, quote-unquote golden rule. Kapag nailagay mo yung 3 W's at 1 H, that is very good. Yan. So, tignan natin yung ating example. There are mistakes in this example. I'll tell you who, why, and how. Like, who? Sino yung mga nandito? Ilagay mo yung nanalo tsaka yung natalo. Siyempre, huwag mo namang i-omit yung natalo. Porket natalo, di mo nilalagay. Against whom naman yung pinanalo ng British Sharks kung di mo ilalagay. So, you have to key in yung dalawa. Who? And then, how? Score. Nilagay mong score. So, may 1 W ka na, 1 H pa. Another W is when. Ayan. It's Tuesday. Where? Home court ng opponent. So, saan yung home court halimbawa ng UC Jaguars? Dito, sa University of the Cordilleras, Baguio. Ayan. Can you guys know if ano yung mali dito sa ating lead? Can I see hands if there are others that would like to know, say kung ano yung mali natin dito sa ating lead? Sino ang nakakaalam? Meron ba? Raise hands. I don't see hands, no? Pero kung may nakakaalam, raise hands lang. Huwag kayong mahihiya, ha? Hindi ito parang sa classroom na right or wrong or my scores yung sagot ninyo. Yan. So, wala akong nakikitang hands dito sa aking screen. Ayan. Nakakaintindi ba lahat ng Ilocano? But anyways, hanggang babain. Ganun. Ilocano term yung mga ano. But anyways, this leads story is correct in itself. Ang mali lang dito is yung score. Yan. Sinadya ko to ha kasi may mga marami. Like 80%. Yan, nagbigay ako ng percentage. But there are a lot of people that are always mistake or that, writes the story wrong. 70-75. Correct naman yung score. Yan talaga yung score, ma'am. Yes, it is correct. But when you present the score, you present always the score of the winner first. So it's supposed to be 75-70. Tama naman yung score Tama naman. 70 yung UC Jaguars, 75 yung Pan-Pacific British Sharks. What is wrong in this one, lalo na kapag competition, this is a tip from one of my EICs before, is always key in the score of the winning team or the winning individual for that matter. So it's supposed to be 75-70 kapag pinapresent na siya. Are you familiar with the scores of tennis? Mga love scores nila. For example, 3 sets. 30-15. Kapag nanalo halimbawa si Serena Williams, tinalo niya yung sister niya. Let's take for example. Tinalo niya si Venus Williams. Although it's supposed to be, but I don't know. Serena Williams won over, sister Venus Williams. 3 sets. So lahat ng 3 sets pinanalo niya. Yung first set, 30-15. So 30-15, ilagay mo muna yung panalong score. Second set, 30-15. And then sa third set, 15-0 or 15-love. Ilagay mo mauuna yung score nung nanalong individual or yung nanalong athlete. Yan. Silent rule yan. Hindi mo yan makikita usually sa mga rule books ng sports writing. But that is one of those na tinitignan nung mga nagpapakompete. Always key in yung score nung nanalo. And then we have the body of this story. Of course, yung body of the story, dito mo ilalagay yung other facts na hindi mo naman nilagay doon sa lead. Although, pwede mo rin namang ulitin yung iba na nilagay mo sa lead. Halimbawa yung score, ang nilagay mo lang is yung Serena Williams outcasts sister Venus Williams in 3 sets to win the Wimbledon trophy 3-0. 3-0 lang yan ha, kasi 3-0 niya yung sa tatlong set. Ngayon dito sa body, kasi hindi mo nilagay yung score doon sa lead, ilagay mo dito sa body. Ano yung best scores? Kagaya ng binanggit kanina, 30-15, 30-15, 15 love. Ganon. And then, kapag halimbawa may bagong record na na-break, like for example, the Gritty Sharks is naka-break kayo ng record na 150 to 50 yung score ng kalaban. That is a new record, I think, for the university, for example. Ilagay mo yan doon sa body. Kapag hindi mo siya na-incorporate sa lead or kapag gusto mong i-emphasize yung new na record na yan. So kadalasan sa body ang nilalagay namin doon sa mga kapag ball games is yung team standing. Ano yung standing ng UC, ano yung standing ng UB. Sa volleyball men, sa volleyball women. Halimbawa. And then, pwede mo rin i-compare yung teams. Yan, dito medyo nagkakatalo. I mean, let's compare. Like, for example, the Wushu team of the University of the Cordilleras to that of the University of Baguio. Long-time rival din yung mga yan dito sa amin kapag dating sa martial arts. So, you compare the team. How do you compare the team? Kapag mga team sports yung pinaglaruhan. Sino yung mas nakakarami ng gold, silver, at bronze? Isa yan sa comparison. Kapag gold, silver, at bronze, yung basihan ng pagkapanalo. Kapag naman ang basihan is score, halimbawa gymnastics, you have to compare the scores of the teams. Kasi nakikita yan sa mga scores if you ever watch gymnastics. Diyan nakakuha yung gold, silver, bronze natin dun sa mga scores comparison. Ganyan. And then also, dito ilagay natin yung quotations. Nakapag-interview ka ng athletes, nakapag-interview ka ng coaches. Yan. Ang favorite ko yung ini-interview na unang-una is the coach. Yan. I'm familiar with the coaches, so I was like, Coach, gaganon mo lang doon. Tapos alam mo na yung sasabihin, alam na nila yung sasabihin nila. Ikaw na lang magsusulat ka na lang. That is if you are a regular sports writer that goes to events like those. Like, let's take for example, hindi ka familiar dun sa sports, hindi ka familiar sa coach. Yes. Interview ka. Most of the time, may mga hawak na recorder yung mga kasama natin. Pero kapag mabilis ka naman magsulat, you know your jargons when you write, take your notes, it's okay. But quotations are very important as well. Like, in-interview mo si Coach Freddie Roach about kay Pacquiao na kakapanalo lang ng world title pero matatalo na president. Example, ano yung masasabi ni Coach Freddie Roach about this? Ayan. So those quotations are important as well. And sometimes, or most of the times, your readers, your audience would like to hear it. Halimbawa, merong nasabi yung coach na hindi niya naman nasasabi dati. Ganyan. Parang si Coach Popovich ng Spurs, halimbawa, kinurse niya si LeBron James kasi hindi siya nakapasok sa playoffs. Halimbawa, bago yon, hindi nagsasalita ng ganun si Popovich. Halimbawa, tapos nagsabi siya ng ganun. Those are strong quotations that is very good to put in sa body ng sports. Ganyan. Halimbawa, si Dr. Virgo biglang nagpagsabi na, we will try to budget a $500,000 pesos for the Pan-Pacific Gritty Sharks because they are attending a basketball game outside the country, for example. Yan, quotation yan na magandang i-record. At most of the time, yung mga quotations na yan, they become quote-unquote evidence or pieces of evidence na, uy, coach, sinabi mo daw doon sa reporter kasi nabasa na nila. It happened. So, yeah, I'm just sharing. Other things that you'd like to put, like weather conditions, most likely dun sa mga outside, mga sports na nalalaro outside. Baseball, what else? Soccer, yung mga outdoor, most likely they are the ones affected by weather conditions. So also you can include na despite the heavy rains or the pouring rain, nanalo pa rin yung soccer team ninyo, Pan-Pacific, against the visiting Ascals. So, di ba? Example lang, na despite na ang dulas, kasi ang lakas ng ulan, nanalo pa rin kayo. Another one is yung crowd and celebration. My favorite crowd is the soccer crowd. I do not really like the basketball crowd sometimes. Personal experience and also from watching. But anyways, crowd and celebration. Gaano ka-wild yung crowd nung nakascore ang Pan-Pacific na yung pinakalampa. Halimbawa sa basketball team ninyo, siya pa yung buzzer beater na nakapagpanalo sa team. How wild did the crowd go? How was the celebration? Were they, like the NBAs when they become champions, they pour ice buckets all over their heads or all over the heads of their teammates. Ganun yung celebrations nila. Or you can also include nagkaroon ng parada. Yan, mahilig kasi ang, hindi naman entirety, pero mas mahilig ang Region 1 and other regions sa Visayas na nagpaparade kapag may maganyang celebration. Not so much in here eh. Nagsimula lang yan nung nag-champion na yung mga team lakay dito sa amin, yung mga pare-parade na yan. But before, bakit nung kami ang nagnanalo sa nationals, parang wala. Ganyan. But anyways, mga ganyan yung mga celebration that we would like to do. Like, nung nag-champion ang LA Lakers, nagre-request si LeBron James na mag-parade sila because nag-champion din ang, ano na yung team ni Tom Brady? The New York football team, sabay silang nag-champion. NFL and NBA, parehas silang nag-champion yung taga LA at gusto nilang mag-parade all around LA to be a part of that celebration. Kaya lang, it's pandemic, so hindi siya supported ng mayor of Los Angeles before. But in writing sports stories, you can include those. How was the celebration? Nakipag-parade po ba si President Duterte halimbawa? Nakipag-parade po ba yung mayor? May pakain ba? Joke lang yun. So anyways, those are parts of the body, as well as this is an example also of the body. Let me nawawala yung aking cursor. Let me just read to you an example. This one are personal example. So Miss Taisa Vasily of the University of Pex, after almost 3 hours of battle on the chessboard, capped the most coveted Hungary chess trophy after outwitting longtime rival University of Wales chesser Miss Meg Griffith in 27 moves of the Sicilian defense. Ayan, one of the most elaborative sports that you could write about is chess. Kasi hindi familiar ang karamihan ng mga tao sa moves ng chess. Alam lang siguro nila yung recastle, yung stalemate, mga ganyan, queenless, mga ganyan na terms. But in writing a story, writing the body of the story na hindi familiar ang lahat, you have to go into the details. Parang yung example natin na ito. After 3 hours, o di ba ganong katagal nilalaro yung chess, mas matagal pa siya kesa sa basketball. Mas matagal pa siya kesa sa 90 minutes ng soccer. Full time, except of course kapag may mga extension times pa. But hindi sila aabutin ng 3 hours. So that itself, nai-inform yung mga readers mo, yung mga audience mo that, oh, so chess can be played as long as 3 hours. What a boring game. Yeah, sometimes. It was just a joke. And then, ano yung mga napanalunan niya? Kasi hindi mo nilagay ito sa lead, for example. Ano yung napanalunan niya? Oh, most coveted trophy pala ito, Hungary Chess Trophy. Yan. So, sino yung nakalaban niya? Long-time rival. Long-time rival, sometimes it takes like years yung binibilang ng mga sports writers bago nila masabi na long-time rival. Yan. Like for example, si Pacquiao. Long-time rival niya si, ano na pangalan ni Morales from Mexico? Yan. Long-time rival niya yan kasi ilang beses din silang nagharap. Pero naging friend niya at the end. Parang ganun yung mga long-time rival na tinatawag natin. Parang Pan-Pacific, sino yung mga long-time rivals ninyo? Hindi ko nababanggitin. Pero halimbawa, yon. And then, paano niya tinalo? 27 moves. So in 3 hours, 27 moves lang yung ginawa niya. You know the comparison? Yung sobrang ganong kahaba ng oras, maano ng audience na, ay, ganong sobrang kahaba yung oras, pero 27 moves lang pala yung ginawa niya. And how was the 27 moves? The Sicilian defense. Yan. Yung Sicilian defense, sometimes, hindi yan ina-explain masyado nung ibang writers. Like, for example, ako yung magsusulat nitong, what do you call this, sports news na ito. I leave it at that. Although some writers would explain that Sicilian defense is this and that, or is done through this and that. Kapag ako, for example, na writer, sa school, di ko na sinusulat yung ibig sabihin ng Sicilian defense. Yan. One purpose of that is to let your readers have time to research for it or to ask for it. Yan. Meron kasi yung mga writers na They cook, they prepare, and then they spoon feed the information to the audience, which is good naman. Kapag, for example, tamad yung mga tao na mag-research or wala na silang time mag-research, wala silang capability to do research or to ask, that is good. Pero meron din yung sports writers that they key in the body and they leave spaces for the readers to do their own personal reading. Like on this one, for example, na body. Actually, hindi yun kasama sa aking discussion supposed to be, but I would just like to share you na meron yung mga body of sports stories na nagiging boring na because of the information overload na tinatawag natin. Yan, sinaksak mo na lahat, nilagay mo na lahat, hindi na naiintindihan ng reader. Imbes na yung maiintindihan lang nila dapat is yung how was it? How was it done? Yan. Those are just examples din naman. And then the ending, dito ako nahihirapan sa ending. How would I end my sports stories? Nilagay ko na lahat. Ano pa ilalagay ko? Diba? Nilagay ko na sa lead. Sakto lang yung lead. Nasagot ko yung 3 W's, 1 H. Tapos yung body, nilagay ko naman yung parang magandang quotation. Team standing, nilagay ko yon. How would I want to end my sports article? Yan. Dito sa ending, you summarize the entire sports occurrence. Yan. So, for example, sinusulat mo about the LA Lakers being the 2022 NBA champions, although it's not gonna happen. Susulat mo lang yun, for example, nilagay mo na yung info dun sa body. How will you summarize? Yan. Dagdag mo ngayon yung mga konting information, ano yung standing ng Lakers from the onset, regular season, tsaka playoffs. Ayan. Ano yung standing ng ibang team? Pwede mo rin ilagdag. Yung tinalo nilang team, for example, tinalo nila yung Brooklyn Nets. Example lang. Ayan. Ano yung mga additional information na kailangan mong ilagay? Like best scores. Sino ang naka-best score sa team? Kasi hindi mo naman sila iisa-isahin na ilagay yung kanilang mga scores, di ba? Sino yung naka-best score? Baka si LeBron James nga. I forgot the other Lakers members. But anyways, additional information, best scores, new scores. Di ba? They tally every score kasi every player. Like single digit yung score niya sa dribbling. Double digit sa dribbling, sa assist. And then double digit yung score niya naman halimbawa sa 3 points, like Stephen Curry always breaking his record. 33s. Ibig sabihin, alam niyo yun, 33s? 30 na 3-point shot sa isang laro. Ang dami na. So 30 times 3, you see? That is equivalent to 90 already, 90 points. But not so sure, did it happen? But anyways, halimbawa, nangyari. Hindi daw nangyari yung 30 na threes. That is like to be, ganyan. Yon. So, best scores, team standing. Sa mga naboboring dyan sa basketball, baka anamot ni Mamon, basketball man. Yan, mga ganyan. Ako din dati ayoko sa basketball, but all my brothers and my other half, they like basketball a lot. So, and as a sports writer, it is my responsibility to watch. So, ayan. But halimbawa, yung offering of a new contract. Ayan. Are you familiar with soccer? Do you know Cristiano Ronaldo, for example? He came from Juventus. It is an Italian team. I think sila lang naman yung popular ni Leo Messi right now. Unless you want to talk about Rakitic and Modric and Mbappe and other players. But let's focus on Cristiano Ronaldo and Leo Messi. So, parang si Cristiano Ronaldo, CR7, when he played for Juventus at matatapos na yung kontrata niya, pwede siyang i-renew ng Juventus. Pero he was offered a new contract. He flew back to Manchester United. Ayan. Parang pag nagsusulat ka, ilagay mo din yun. Dun sa ending. Parang pwedeng panggulat sa ending ng yung sports news na, was offered a new contract by yung ilagay natin dito or other pertinent details na hindi mo naman nabanggit talaga sa lead or sa body. So ending sometimes is the hardest, but writing the title is harder. Articles because you are going to do a dun sa mga isasubmit ninyo later on. ganyan. Tapos iisa lang ko lang ang kwento. Ayan. Brief sentences lang. Lalo na at sports news ito, hindi gusto ng mga tao minsan yung mahabang sentence kasi hindi nila naiintindihan. Salpak mo lang yung score kung gusto mong score lang sa sentence na yun. Use active voice whenever possible. Most sports stories are written in the active voice, like Dr. Virgo Lopez outwits, outclasses, mga ganun. Madalang lang yung past tense ang ginagamit din ng mga words. Get rid of sports cliches. Ano yung mga sports cliche na mga what do you call this? Mga nababasa natin kapag tayo yung mga nagbabasa ng mga what do you call this? Nagbabasa ng mga sports articles. Yan. Nung natalo ang Lakers, masamang loob ng nanay ko, maka-Lakers yun eh. Tapos may mga nagsusulat na, Lakers need to step up their game. Cliche yun, yung need to step up their game. That is a cliche. Gasgas na yun. Lagi nang ginagamit yun. Hanap ka naman ng bago. So how do you say it? Yung Lakers need to step up their game. Yan. Lakers need new faces. Paano kung yun na lang sinabi mo? Lakers need new talents. Yan. Kasi may mga cliche na kapag binabasa ng audience, writers, and fellow sports writers, halimbawa, or nung mga readers lang, medyo boring na yan. Ganyan. Maggasgas na. At kapag sa competition, minsan, those are also important facts na kailangan mong magbigay ng new formula, new feeling dun sa mga words na nilalagay mo. Yan, nabasa nung, for example, competition yun, nabasa nung judge. The Lakers need to step up their game. Basa ko na to 10 years ago pa, mga ganyan. Lalo na kapag yung mga judges nyo is nagsusulat na 4 years. Ganyan. Use new words. Hindi man kailangang high-faluting word, ganyan. Just new words. Parang new blood ba yung i-insert. Yan. And then also yung attend live sports events. This is very, very, anong tawag doon? Ito yung ina-encourage ko sa lahat ng mga sports writers. Attend live sporting events. Yan. Wag lang kayong mag-research. Facebook mo lang, stalk mo sa Facebook. Tapos tinanong mo sa friend mo. Kasi may friend siya na friend na nandun sa team na naglaro. Ganyan. Or dahil kakilala ng cousins mo, yung cousins, yung sister ng mga athletes. Hindi po pwedeng ganun lang ang pagsusulat ng sports events. Attend sports event no matter how much you do not like the event. Like me, I do not really like golf. I do not like sitting there and watching them, hit the ball, and when it reaches that part, to travel kayo ulit doon with all the things and all the caddies following you, and then hit nyo ulit papunta doon sa may flag. That is boring to me personally. But I have to go. I have to go watch that event, experience that event. Ano yung tinatawag nilang under par? Ano yung tinatawag nilang birdie? Sino yung mga caddy? You talk to the caddies. You learn new things from those. That is how you learn how to write the sports itself. Yan. Kayo, I am 101% sure that most of you are not familiar with martial arts. MMA. Yan. Kaya nung nandyan si Eric, sabi niya mag-i-insert siya ng mga, that's very good. Of course, you know Arnis, maybe, because that's part of the curriculum ng CCJ, for example, or that's part of your PE. That is very familiar with a lot of students. But do you know what Sambo is? Are you familiar that Wushu exists, for example? Taolu exists? Mga ganyan. Yan. And I am also 101% sure na dito naman sa amin, hindi sila masyadong familiar with the water, for example, sports. Although alam namin na yung swimming kasi meron kaming Olympic-sized swimming pool here, but there are other sports that we are not really aware of or that we are not really knowledgeable of. Parang yung cliff diving at tinatawag, ayan, cliff diving pala yung ginawa dun sa Palawan before, the last World Championship dun sa Palawan. Ayan, kasi wala kami masyadong tubig dito, wherein sa inyo meron. Yung triathlon that includes biking, swimming, and running, they do not do that here because we do not have an area wherein pwedeng mag-swimming yung mga competitors. At karamihan ng taga dito sa amin, hindi familiar dun sa mga yan. So they don't have, the opportunity to attend to yung mga competitions na yan. Kaya kung meron kayong opportunity to attend live sporting events, go. Yan. You have to sit at the bench, watch, talk to people, knowledgeable people, wag naman yung mga marites lang dun sa tabi-tabi ang pinakausap nyo. For example, nag-attend kayo ng basketball. Ganyan. And then you have to make notes and fact check your notes, your information. Make notes, hindi man kailangang special yung mga taking notes nyo. Ako susulat ako dati. Yung module, hindi siya module ano kasi yung tawag doon? Yung notes namin, yung photocopy notes namin. And naka-fold na ganyan nung college ako. Tapos mag-i-interview ako ng basketball. Coach, ano yung ano? Doon ko na susulat sa notes ko mismo. Ganyan. But you have to do one important thing is to fact check. Okay? Fact check always your information. Like, sinulat mo yung score. Nagmali ka lang ng isang number that is a fatal blow on your part. That is a fatal, sin, mortal sin kapag sa sports yan. Yung acceptable pa siguro yung wrong yung spelling ng pangalan. Ganyan. Pero hindi acceptable pag mali na yung nilagay mong pangalan. When I was writing for Sunstar, I did write about a team that did not represent Baguio but would like to represent Baguio. Hindi kasi po pwede yun pag naglalaro ka sa mga palaro ng Sports Commission. If you are Team Pangasinan, you represent Pangasinan. Kapag nag-aaral ka dito sa Baguio at okay naman, i-represent mo ang Team Baguio, that's okay. Ang nangyari kasi doon, meron yung mga taga-ibang places na gustong i-represent ang Team Baguio kasi malaking magbigay ng allowance ang Team Baguio kuno that time, and that they submitted that they are from Team Baguio. And then when I wrote the article, I did write that they are from another area. Fact check ko yun kasi kilala ko yung ibang coaches, athletes. Double check ko pa yun. And then they came back claiming na bias daw ang Baguio Sunstar kasi nagsusulat kami ng sports news na mali-mali yung information. Yeah. So, pwedeng mag-boomerang yun sa atin as sports writers. But, as again, fact check your information. That is very fatal. And I think I'm going to end my sports writing tips here. There are a lot that I'd like to share. There are a lot that's going on in my mind right now, even though I did not include dito sa aking, presentation. Pero baka sa susunod, Dr. Virgo, that you'd like to have more of this sports writing, I'm super okay with that. Yung schedule lang natin. I think you're going to do a write-up or a workshop about this one. I'm going to give you the workshop before we do a microphone ons, and you can ask questions. Or would you rather ask questions first before I give you your work? How is it done? Sir Virgo and Sir Rodlan? And so I think I'm going to give back. Pwede? Ibigay ko muna yung inyong activity. And in this one, kunin na natin na parang competition, semi-competition ba? Sabihin natin competition yung ito. Like you are writing, you are representing your school, you are representing your entity. Pag LGU ka, like for example, yung sister ko na nandyan na nasa LGU, I think she joined. I saw her name. Ganyan. At saka sa mga taga-ibang offices, government offices, I saw offices kasi kanina. Kapag gusto niyo pong makipag-participate, this is very okay. In writing these sports stories that you do today sa workshop is incorporate lang yung mga narinig natin. O yung mga napag-aralan ninyo konti dito sa ating listening na ito. So that's it for my sports writing part. I'll be giving another talk a little bit for the literary writing. So will there be questions? I would entertain questions right now if there are. And then I'll give you your work. Kasi yung work kasi homework, ganyan. So isasubmit niyo yan sa, I think, Google Forms. Sir Rodlan, tama ba yung ating output in here?
Yes, ma'am. After the session po.
Yan. So sabi ni Sir Rodlan, after the session, you're going to submit your outputs. So before I give you the outputs, do you have questions? Are there questions?
We actually have questions here.
We have question from Farah Andrea Rule. You may now unmute your microphone. Farah? I guess Farah is not yet ready. How about Charlie May Garcia?
Hello, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. So, hello, ma'am. Good morning. So, I have a question. You have mentioned earlier about the key concept and the things we have to put or write in sports writing. So, what about those things or information that we should not be put or write in sports writing?
Sorry, ma'am. What I understood from the questions it is what are those things that we should not?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, this is one of the funny, I learned this the hard way, ma'am. Before, when I was still, until now naman, I still join yung mga sports seminars, is that they do not always put yung mga don'ts. Ang nilalagay lang ng mga speakers are do's. And whenever I do speaking, nilalagay ko yung don'ts. And so I asked like, why don't you put the don'ts also so other people would know kung ano yung mga bawal, illegal? Ma'am, no offense and no offense to the audience. What this person told me, he's also a lawyer kasi and is sports. I think siguro nadaanan niyo siya dito. Ay, narinig niyo yung mga pangalan niya or nadaanan na ninyo sa social media yung pangalan niya. Isa siya sa mga magagaling na writers ng Philippine Star. He also said, kapag nilagay ko na yung do's, yung mga wala doon, don'ts, sabi niya kasi. But, to answer yung mga questions naman ni ma'am, yung mga kapag sa level ng sports writing sa campus journalism, yung mga don'ts lang natin is yung mga parang don'ts lang din ng journalism like plagiarism. Yan, number 1 yan. Do not plagiarize or copy information or copy your sports writing information. Style, yan yung mga kinokopya kasi. And others is yung writing technique per se. Yan. I used to really like yung part ng sports, Philippine Star na sports. And when I started writing sports, I emulate how they write. And that was wrong. Ini-emulate ko naman. Hindi naman siya published yung mga sinusulat ko, pero ini-emulate ko yung style ng pagsulat nila. Na kapag yung lead, for example, nasagot mo yung important questions sa body, kahit konti lang ilagay mo, yun na yung sports news. Ganyan kasi yung mga straight na news nila. So those are the do's. Ang don'ts na ginawa ko is I tried to emulate how they write. So those are the don'ts that I can say. Plagiarism. So it comes in many ways. Copying the style, copying the information. Yan, hindi ka pa nag-fact check pero kinopya na yung information. That is one of the don'ts, yung plagiarism. And another one is do not try to write sports if you cannot really write about it. Yan. I did that and I learned it the hard way. Yung sinasabi ko kaninang golf, that is one of my favorite examples when I do sports speaking because I learned it the hard way na I tried to write about golf kasi inaabutan ako ng deadline na yung Sunstar editor at golf yung binigay niya sa akin. Do not try to write about a sport without asking for help, or if you cannot ask for help, yung hindi mo talaga familiar, look for other that you'd like to write. Unless you're in a, your head is on a shotgun to write about it. Joke lang. Yeah. So that's also another don't. Do not try to write about sports which you are not familiar with. Sa mga competitions naman kasi, usually they give the topic. Pag ako yung speaker ninyo, bibigyan ko kayo ng topic, halimbawa na soccer. Hindi ka naman familiar sa soccer, ganyan. Pero competition ito at kailangan mo magsulat about soccer. You do now have to ad-lib or you have to use your resourcefulness fast because competition yan. Unang-una, sabi ko na kanina, magbaon ka ng at least 10 sports lingos about one sport. Yan, dapat kahit may 5 ka pa nga, okay na yon sa soccer. So that's where you start. But do not write about, as much as possible, sports articles which or about sports that you are not familiar with. Yan ang isa sa mga pangalawa. And then yung third is kapag wala ka kasing passion sa sports, di ka makakapagsulat sa sports. Yan ang laging sinasabi. Let's correct that. Meron yung mga individuals na hindi naman may passion sa sports pero magaling siyang magsulat ng sports. Ang maipapayo ko na don't na gagawin ng mga yan is yung pabayaan, yung galing na yan to go into others. Like magaling ako, hindi ako magaling wala akong passion sa sports, pero magaling ako magsulat about sports, for example, wherever that galing is coming from. Pero dun sa editor ko is, kasi wala kang passion sa sports, ilalagay ka sa iba. Like feature writing, although pwede mo pa rin namang isulat, ganyan. Huwag mong papabayaan yung galing mo na yun sa pagsusulat ng sports na mapunta dun sa pagsusulat lang ng feature. If you guys get what I mean. Yan, meron kasi mga writers na ganyan, napapabayaan yung kanilang galing dun sa pagsusulat nung dapat nilang sulatin kasi ina-assign sila dun sa ibang sports. So I think those are the don'ts that I could share about it, although it's not really about the writing per se. I hope I have answered some of your questions, ma'am. I didn't get the name, sorry.
Thank you, ma'am.
Shelly. Thank you so much, Shelly. Any other questions coming from the bridge? From our participants? How about questions from our Facebook Live? Any questions? I guess we're all good, ma'am.
Mr. Renibo, I think somebody's raising his hand. It's Mr. Jin Cyril Kotaro.
Ah, yeah. Mr. Kotaro. Is that Mr. Kotaro?
Yes, Mr. You may now unmute, Mr. Kotaro. Thank you.
Hello, ma'am. Can you hear me well?
Yes, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Good morning, ma'am. I would like to ask, since we are now talking about sports writing and it's all about telling or writing of sports, my question is that how can we identify the crucial part of the game? Kasi merong instances na ma'am, kasi I've also read a lot of sports articles. Iba't iba ang pag-relay nila ng crucial part ng game, which is also yun yung mga unang napapansin supposedly ng ating mga readers. Paano natin ma-identify kung saan yung crucial part ng game? Is it through scores or any factors ma'am to consider?
Ako din, pag nagsusulat ako ng sports, I would like to put the crucial part of the sport kasi yan yung nag-attract sa readers. Like, sabi ko nga, Philippine ASCALs, for example, yung Philippine ASCALs natin, ano ba yung malalakas na soccer teams? Like the Argentina, I don't know their names, but Argentina is one of the strongest soccer teams in the world. So, halimbawa, number 1 sa buong mundo ang Argentina, tapos ang ASCAL, nowhere in the ranks, baka nasa pang 64, ganyan. Tapos, nung qualifying sa World Cup, tinalo nila ang Argentina sa 1-0 na score. Ang crucial part dyan is yung score. Number 1 yan na crucial part. Pwede mo yung ilagay sa title. Crucial part ka agad. Or kung hindi mo ilalagay sa title, yung score, ilagay mo dun sa lead. Yan. So like, Philippine ASCALs, 0s, Argentina, something. Ganyan, sa title mo halimbawa. Pero yung score, di mo nilagay. So ilagay mo yan. Crucial part yung score kapag ganyan kalaki yung agwat. Number 1 tsaka number 64, right? The comparison, that is one crucial. Yun, another crucial, halimbawa, score yun ha. Another crucial is how. Yung sumasagot sa question na how. How were they able to win? 90th minute. So, 90 minutes lang kasi yung one full time ng soccer. Hindi kasali dyan yung, yung halftime break natin, just like in NBA. So, 89 minutes na yung natatapos. Last 1 minute na lang, 0-0 pa rin. Or nil-nil. Nil kasi yung tawag sa zero score sa soccer. Nil-nil pa rin yung score. At parehong team is parang masigasig naman doon sa laban. Ngayon, at the very last minute, naka 1 goal ang Philippine ASCALs. Yan. You have to describe the crucial part on the how. Yan. So, like for example, number 7 player, Kotaro Velasco. Pinch in, an in-step kick to edge out the goal against Argentina Lions, for example. So you have to describe the how. Yan, crucial part din yan. Gustong malaman ng lahat how, ganyan. Sa NBA, parang normal na lang kasi pag sinabi mong, pinanalo ni Stephen Curry by a 3-point shot. It's not crucial anymore because that is very normal. Ang crucial part minsan is yung bago na information. Parang yan, winan-zero natin na Philippine Ascals yung Argentina Lions, for example, yung mga players naman natin, mas, hindi sila mas magagaling as the Argentinians. So yan yung isa sa mga crucial parts, the how, the performance, ganyan. And another one is yung when. Yan, seasonal din kasi. Yan, like NBA seasonal yan, correct? Meron tayong regular season, before regular season or during the regular season nga, meron pa silang draft, nagda-draft pa sila ng mga bago-bagong mga athletes. And then we go to the playoffs. The playoffs, ganyan. Doon sa crucial part na yun, halimbawa, meron yung, ano yung tawag doon kapag nag-switch sila ng players? I forgot the term. Nasa dulo ng dila ko.
Substitution.
No, actually, yung nag-swap ng players. Like the Lakers, nag-swap sila ng player ni Nets. Ano yung tawag doon, Zim?
Trade.
Nag-swap sila ng players. Trade. Tama, correct. Thank you. Yung trading, kalagitnaan na ng season, yung magagaling na players, tinitrade pa nila. Halimbawa si Kyrie Irving, galing siya doon sa, halimbawa lang to, Brooklyn Nets. Kasi ayaw niyang magpa-vaccine, trinade na lang siya sa Lakers, although magaling. Kasi yun lang yung reason nila. Pero parang pinapanalo niya naman ang Brooklyn Nets. Tapos nung pumunta siya sa Lakers ngayon, siya ang nagpanalo dun sa Lakers. Ayan, crucial information din yung mga yun. That, I think as a reader myself, or our readers and our audience would like to know. So those are crucial points. There are other crucial points pa naman when we talk about, local sports, like martial arts, mga knockout, mga ganyan. But in the larger scene, yun yung mga crucial points, I think. I hope I have answered your question.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Do we have other questions in the house or other things that you'd like to share? So are there others?
Other questions, Guy? I guess there's no more question from our Facebook Live. Same here on the bridge. We don't have any other question.
Mm-hmm. So, okay, guys, if you don't have any other questions left, I'm not so sure how you guys would do this, but I'll let you do a screenshot of your work that you're going to do. Please do a screenshot na lang itong gagawin ninyong work. So let's see on it. And thank you guys for listening to sometimes when I am so excited speaking, I speak so fast, or there are things that I would like to say pero hindi ko na ma-include kasi nag-overlap na yung information. Minsan, that's how I get excited sometimes talking about sports and sports writing, and I apologize for that. But if there are times in the future that, you'd like to learn some more or you'd like to talk to me about some more about sports, I usually entertain PMs naman sa aking messenger, ganyan. Although sometimes it takes a long time for me to open, ganyan. But anyways, I thank you so much for listening. And thank you so much, PanPacific University, Dr. Virgo Soroblan, for this invitation to talk about sports writing. So guys, this is your work that you're going to do. Let's do it. I hope you've learned some on this one. And I'm so excited to write again or to see again yung mga sports articles from other people. I've been reading my sports articles online and sometimes I get bored on it. I correct myself. So ito naman, mas maganda kasi para iba naman yung mababasa kong sports articles. So this is it. Your title here. I did not discuss about the title on how you write the title, but as short as possible. Like 5-word title is already very good. Mga 10 words na title ng sports, very long na yan. 7, very long na yan. 7 words. So 5 words and below yung title ng ating sports article. So your title, your own. These are the sports facts that you would have to do. Pick any sports that you want to talk about or that you want to write about. I'll give you your freedom. I'm not a very expert, editor or writer on all the sports events, but I think I'd like to learn also how and want to see how you guys would like to write. If you'd like to write about rugby, it's okay. If you'd like to write about water polo or polo sports, that's okay. So you pick any sports that you'd like to write. Yan. Research for the details of the sports that you'd like to write. Parang gusto nyo isulat yung Pan-Pacific University Gritty Sharks if you are from PU. Yan. Research for the details. Ano yung gusto nyo isulat? Gusto nyo bang isulat yung parang yung example natin kanina, profile? Gusto nyo bang i-profile yung lead player ninyo? Gusto nyo i-profile si coach ninyo? For example, research for the facts. And then, very short lang, yung mali na naman yung sulat ko. 500 to 1,000 dapat yan. Sorry, 100 na lang. Na-omit yung isang zero. Short story or short sports, right? Sports article about it. So, I'll give you the freedom and then you can submit sa ating Google form. Doon sa mga isasubmit ninyo, maglalagay ako ng mga critiques. For example, yung title, I'll give you tips na yung title mo masyadong mahaba or yung title mo supposed to be ganito. And then sa lead, sa mga information, maglalagay din ako ng critique. Don't you worry, it will not be published. Or I don't know if, PU would like to publish it. Ganyan. And I'm not so sure if I am to judge it, like, is there a winner? Top 3 winners, for example, or top 3, hindi naman winners, pero top 3 na good articles or great articles. Come on. Is there or will there be a part like that, Sir Rodlan? That we will choose like?
Yes, ma'am. We could probably share the drive where they would send their work to you, ma'am. And then we will be providing a rubric in order for us to identify the top 3 winners for this particular assignment.
Oh, so there are really top 3 winners. So we will be, di bale, hindi ko naman kayo kilala. So you can just incorporate your name in that one. Sa mga competitions kasi, you do not put your names. Meron kayong pipirmahan doon, tapos you get a number. Put your number doon sa ano. But I think that's okay na. You can just incorporate your name naman doon sa ating sports articles. So if you want to write about Pacquiao, that's okay. Research for the facts. Again, fact check your information. Isa yan sa mga number 1. Do not make gaya. Do not plagiarize yung mga gawain. So ayan, sabi ni Sir Rodlan, they will be providing you with links wherein you can submit and then we will try to critique, isa-isahin natin yung mga isasubmit ninyo. So are we good? No questions about your work? May pinili ako dapat pero parang haggard naman kung pipiliin. May pinili akong boxing pero I'm not so sure if everybody's familiar with boxing. Kakatapos lang kasi yung palaro namin ng Saturday. So hype pa rin dun sa laros. Pero to give you naman freedom to write about it. At sa tingin ko yung mga estudyante na student journalist, meron kasi tayong kanya-kanyang bet na isulat. Like, baka gustong-gusto mo yung gymnastics, you are familiar with it. Or baka athlete ka pa nga dyan, yun ang gusto mong isulat, go ahead. I'll just, help you with tips perhaps on how to improve if there are areas that are, needed improvement sa iyong pagsusulat dito sa sports writing. So are there any other things that I would be sharing regarding sports? Sana na-screenshot nyo na, ha? So, Sir Rodlan?
All right. Good morning, everybody. To keep the ball rolling, let me ask from your end, your participation. Will you all give me an emoji if you are still there and if you do not have any questions anymore? Everyone? I can only see one heart. How about the others? All right. I can see 8, 9, 10. Thank you very much. And if you do not have any questions anymore, Ma'am Sharma, I think we could proceed with the literary part.
And so, okay. Let me share my screen with you in a few. Pagkatapos ng sports, mag-literary naman tayo. Yung literary natin, minsan parang ang layo sa sports, no? Sports entices, sports writing. Parang ang dami mong kailangang gawin. It's so physical. Even the writing itself sometimes gets physical, especially if you go to the venue. And then literary writing is, you can just sit and then write. Parang right now, nakikinig ka, tapos biglang meron kang gustong isulat, you can just write about it. Sometimes I am like that. I write on tissue papers on the restaurants, like we are talking with friends, tas ganyan, susulat ganyan. Alam niyo ba yan? Sometimes we do that whenever we go coffee, mga ganyan. So, ganun ka-different yung angulo minsan ng sports writing. But in here, we will also try to take a look at the similarities of the sports writing and our literary writing. Let me turn off my screen on the sports writing. And then we will proceed sa ating literary writing. So, okay, is my screen visible on yours right now? Everyone? Emoji again, kahit anong emoji. Kung visible lang ang ating mga screen, pop up ang emoji sa ating screen at makikita ko kayo. Ayan. Thank you sa mga nag-respond ng kanilang emojis. Mga estudyante ko mahilig din sa ganito. Emoji, thanks. When I ask them sa GC, sa Messenger, like, kailan ang gusto nyong schedule ng exam? PM or AM? Tapos mag-reply sila ng emoji. Di ba? Ganun. So, emoji yung ating Wednesday morning. So, let's just go to literary naman. Ayan. Kung sa sports kanina, para akong naha-hyper, dito sa literary, I can do literary like while sitting down, while lying down. And so do you. And you can write literary pieces wherever you are, whatever you are doing, and at whatever state of your mind is. Unlike in sports, kapag pupunta ka dun sa mga sports activities, 101% ang utak mo dapat nandun, pati yung physicality mo, lalo na kapag nagre-record ka ng mga information. Dito sa literary writing, hindi mo kailangan ng ganoon sa literary writing. And most often than not, literature pieces or literary pieces rather are written dun sa mga places where they are least expected, like, on the bus way home, on the airplane, flying to somewhere, ganyan. So let us take a look at this literary writing na sinatawag natin. Medyo gasgas na rin yung kasi yung ibang information dito about literary writing, but let's take a look. What is literary? Ayan. Pag tinanong ko kayo, ano yung literary, mga kapatid? Ano yung mga isasagot nyo? Mabilisan lang dito sa ating chat box. What do you understand about literary? Except, of course, the one that I am presenting right now. So ano yung tingin ninyo dito sa literary? Pa-respond sa ating chat box kung sino yung mga magre-respond. Ano yung tingin niyo sa literary? Ano yung naiintindihan niyo sa literary kapag sinabing literary? Okay, written works. Yes, written works. Others. Kapag sinabi nating literary, ano yung naiintindihan niyo? Ano yung pagkakaintindi niyo per se? Non-fiction or fiction? Experience. Poems. Last two na makita ko. Sino pa? What do you understand about literary? Kapag tinanong ka, ano yung literary? Ganyan. How do you explain it in a gist or in a few words? How do you understand literary? Writings. Yan. So lahat ng mga sinabi natin is correct. Yan. In specific na lang yung iba like fiction or non-fiction. Ang literary collection of written works. Yan. This is actually the old or the earlier version of literary. Sa atin kasi sa panahon natin ngayon, meron na tayong tinatawag na written literary, spoken literary work. Besides the written, meron tayong spoken. Yan. We will try to take a look at that later. But per se, ang literary na tinatawag natin is collection of written work. Yan. Usually, these are for writing specifically considered as art, like poems. Kagaya ng example na sinabi nyo kanina. Poems, fiction or non-fictions, those are specific types of written pieces which are called literary pieces. Yan. So, yung mga poem yun ninyo na yan. Like, one night, nag-emo ka. Narinig mo yung kanta ninyo ni X. Kasi nag-emo ka, biglang nag-play sa radio or sa iyong pinapakinggang sa iTunes mo, halimbawa nag-download ka kasi tapos biglang nag-play sa iTunes mo, ganyan. Tapos napasulat ka. Those are examples of literary. Nabasa niyo na ba yung kay Shakespeare? Ako hindi pa. Ganyan. But those are considered to be one of the best forms of literary, written literary, para siyang na-edit ng napino ang edit hanggang sa na-publish na ganon. Those are literary works. So you see the difference? Yung sobrang pino ang pagkaka-edit versus yung sa sinulat mo nung nag-i-emo ka, na sinulat mo sa papel, those are considered both literary works at different levels and considered as different literary pieces by people. But those are considered as literary. Yan. Ano yung mga forms and genres ng ating literary? We have drama, like the Romeo and Juliet. That is, I personally consider that the most overrated drama around the world of all time kasi inano pa yan. Nire-enact, ganyan. Gusto ang i-rewrite ng ibang writers, ganyan. But those are examples of drama. Prose. Ano yung mga nasusulat natin when it comes to the prose? I'll let you write about these things later on dito sa mga prose na to. Essay. Favorite ng mga estudyante kapag nag-e-exam. Ma'am, essay na lang po exam. Ganyan. Instead of the fill in the blanks or the identification, ma'am, essay na lang yung exam. Ganyan. Kasi pwede silang mag-copy-paste sa Google. Di lang nila alam, pwede mong i-copy-paste din at malalaman mong copy-pasted yung mga sagot. But anyhow, essays are parts and parcels of literary. More so kapag yung essay mo ay like, kagaya ni Sir Rodlan kanina, banggit niya yung experience. Nag-essay ka about your personal experience. How were you able to enroll at a prestigious university like PanPacific despite the fact na wala kayong pera? How were you able to become a doctor like Dr. Virgo, I was so surprised when I learned that Dr. Virgo actually is studying for his doctoral degree. Tapos nasabi ko na lang na, ito talaga yung masasabi mo. Or like when I was writing, for example, essay, pwede kong sabihin doon sa essay ko na itong si Dr. Virgo, pwede kong i-describe yung pinagdaanan nito na hindi basta-basta hanggang sa naging doctor siya. Ganyan. Sorry naman, Virgo, I'm sharing this information. But like for example, yun yung mga essay na mas kino-consider na pieces of literary, like your experience. Yan. Sa mga kabataan ngayon, hindi kayo millennial ha, kami actually yung millennial. Kayo mga generation ngayon is like, this is from personal experience naman or personal perception ko siguro sa mga experience ng mga kabataan ngayon. When you ask them to write like personal essays, what will be the topic of your personal essays? Karamihan sa kanila is yung hirap na nadadaanan nila as estudyante ngayon. Number 1 yan. Nagpasulat kasi ako sa mga estudyante ko about that. Also criminology, mga estudyante ko, nakita ko sa mga essays nila, literary, consider ko ang literary pieces yung mga yan because on their essay, doon pinakita yung kanilang mga personal experiences. And I saw a lot of hardships in them. Mangilan-ngilan lang yung parang wala. But anyway, those are essays. And essays are supposed to be personal, to be, considered as literary. Although meron din yung mga essay naman na research, which are still considered literary. Although yung mga yon is, it's not first-hand. Meron ka na kasing pinagkuhanan ng information. And then poetry. This is the, I think, oldest or most popular form of literary. Parang pwede kayong magsulat ng poem right now at this moment that you're listening to me. Like, for example, you're going to write how boring the speaker is, how boring your mind is going through a lot of things just listening to the speaker, for example. Halimbawa ko yan, or how undeniable the fact is na wala kang naiintindihan sa sinasabi ko. Or how undeniable is the fact is na yung pagsusulat lang ng poem is very easy for you that no need to listen to this seminar, for example. Example ko lang yan ha. I mean, this is how do the examples, ladies and gents. And then yung novel. This is one of the things that I haven't tried yet, although I started a long time ago to parang feeling ko kasi kaya ko magsulat ng mga novel like John Grisham novels. That's my favorite, John Grisham. I grew up reading it since high school. So isa yan sa mga favorite ko. And then right now, I'm trying to finish the trilogy of the Lord of the Rings. Pero hindi ko magawa-gawa kasi I have to go back and understand yung mga terms. Ganyan. So, yung mga novel na yan, when we do write novels, mostly yung mga nakakapagsulat is number one na kinoconsider nila when they write is yung expertise. Like John Grisham, a lawyer, expert on the law, on the First, Second, Third, and Fifth Amendment of the United States of America. So yun yung mga sinusulat niya. And other authors na mga nagsusulat usually is kung ano yung expertise nila ng mga bagay, yun, doon umiikot yung kanilang mga sinusulat. Have you read novels of Haruki Murakami, for example? Yan. If you've read his novel, Haruki Murakami, ang dami niyang weird na sinusulat doon. That is from a personal perception niya rin naman, na yung expertise niya is mag-imagine ng weird things and ino-incorporate niya yan sa totoong buhay. Like the raining of the fishes. It happens, di ba, yung mag-rain ang fish. Do you know that as a fact? That there are times that it will rain fishes. That is because of a natural phenomenon that I forgot what it's called about. But it happens. Pero in-incorporate niya dun sa novel niya yan. At para siyang imposible dun sa novel niya. But it is really happening in real life. But anyways, those are forms of the major forms of major genres of literary. There are others, okay, that are included in here. But I think we have to focus on these 5 yet. These are also the sub-forms or the sub-forms ng 5 na to. Itong drama, prose, essay, poetry, novel. Meron ba siya yung mga sub-genres na tinatawag? Like comedy, tragedy. Paano yung sub-genre na tinatawag? Like for example, poetry, pwede kang magkaroon ng comedy na poetry, pwede ka rin magkaroon ng tragedy na poetry. Pwede rin magkaroon ng romance na poetry. Ganyan. Mga ganon. Diba? Yung poetry natin. Another one is, let's take drama. Yan. Sa mga drama naman, like Romeo and Juliet. Ano ba yung Romeo and Juliet? A lot of people would like to call it a romantic drama. But actually, it's a tragedy. It's a tragic drama. Correct? Because just like in Titanic, the guy died, so it's a tragic drama. But a lot of critics would say that it is a romantic drama. Anyways, these are the sub-forms, sub-genres nung 5 sinabi ko kanina. Like comedy, tragedy, epic poetry, thriller, science fiction, romance, and a lot others. Ano yung purpose nung literary? Kapag nagbabasa kayo ng poem, ano yung purpose ninyo? Sometimes, ang isa sa mga purpose natin is to entertain ourselves, right? Entertain in the sense na, ay, ang ganda naman ng pagkakasulat ng poem niya. Ang ganda ng mga chosen words na mga ginamit niya. Ang galing ng mga words na pagde-describe niya. Ayan. Yung isa naman, to entertain ourselves is, pag halimbawa, kilala natin yung nagsulat, yung kaklase natin yung nagsulat, nagsulat na naman to ng love poem niya, in love kasi. Ini-entertain natin yung mga sarili natin based on this information. Yan. Sino ba yung mga nababasa niyo yung kanilang mga literary works? Halimbawa, yung teacher ninyo nakapag-post ng poem doon sa kanyang timeline. Katas kayo mga estudyante, ino-offer niyo yung teacher, ina-entertain niyo yung mga sarili niyo. In love man ni Saron. In love nga tama, dati nga mestran. I apologize sa mga hindi nakakaintindi ng Ilocano, ha. One purpose is to entertain ourselves. In a lot of dimensions, ina-entertain natin yung sarili natin whenever we read or whenever we write yung mga literary pieces. Parang gusto ko ngayon magsulat ng piece about like student and teacher relationship. Ganyan. Yung relationship na kapag nakikinig tsaka gano'n. Hindi yung relasyon na relasyon. Ganyan. Entertain. And another one is for the writers to amuse yung kanilang readers. Yan. If you've ever read yung mga pieces ng mga comedians dun sa mga literary writers, they tend to amuse their readers. Isa yan sa mga alam natin. Ina-amuse nila tayo kaya they write like about funny poems or funny things. Yan. Behind that, meron pa silang gustong ipaabot sa atin. You know, like a clown, that a clown is always painted with a smile, but behind the smile, if you can see directly the lips of the clown, it's not even smiling, right? So those are one of the purposes, or those are purposes of literary writing. It is to entertain your reader if you are the author. But if you are the audience, it is to entertain yourself reading. Yan. And as a writer also, one of your purposes is to amuse your readers. Give entertainment to your readers. How about the language used? This is one of the debates going on around the world. Let them debate. We just do our literary pieces, right? May mga scholars kasi sometimes na nagde-debate na dapat ano daw, meron kasi akong society that I have joined. It's online though that I have joined. It's based somewhere in Europe. And I thought, this is a literary group naman. Parang nakikita ko sa mga post nila, okay, so I joined. And then later on, ko lang nalaman na dapat may mga specific palang language used ka na ginagamit kapag nagsusulat ka ng tula. Kasi nagsasubmit kami ng tula. Ini-encourage nila kami mag-submit ng mga works namin. And then, yung mga language used is kailangan ano nila, screen ba? Kumbaga. Ayan. So, in-include ko na rin ito sa ating discussion today that the language used by literary writing, ayan, parang sa theme natin, creative writing through through sports and literary. So, yung language used na gagamitin natin whenever we do literary pieces, creative. Ayan. Roses are red. What is that poem again? For example, pwede namang yung roses gawin nating violet. Diba? Creative nga eh. How do we show that the roses are violet? Through words. Hindi yung drawing tapos kukulayan mo ng violet. Through words, how do we show the world that roses can be violet? Ayan. Violet means sadness sometimes. Isa ibig sabihin ng mga colors, violet can mean sadness, di ba? Tapos kapag nilagay mo yung, pinipicture mo dun sa mind ng reader mo yung rose as violet as form of sadness. Ano yung parang creativity na nakikreate mo doon? Yung ginanda-ganda ng roses na yun, sad siya. Diba? Although violet means life also, because, you know, the wombs of women turn violet whenever life are created in life, the wombs of women. Additional lang. But yung creativity natin is parang ganun. How do you present to the world that roses are violet? Makikidebate yung mga iba dyan. Roses will never be violet. Ganyan. Kahit saan ka makarating. Except dito sa Baguio kasi ni-sprayhan nila ng color yung mga roses namin. We have also blue roses here. Ganyan. Pula ang kulay ng roses, hindi pink. Although there are pink roses. Joke lang ha. That's not political. I just saw it on social media. But let's go back to creativity. How do you create, or how do you present in words, through words that, you know, roses are violets? Ano yung creativity na ipinapakita nun? Sabi ko nga, no matter how beautiful that rose is, if it's created violet or if it's colored red according to your words, then that rose is actually a sad rose. Or the person that you are depicting through that rose is a sad person. And then imaginative, like Haruki Murakami, also although hindi poem yung sa kanya mga novels niya, yung imagination niya, like when he wrote about IQ 84, title ng book niya kasi IQ 84, meron siyang dinescribe dun about little people that comes out of the mouth of one of the characters. So how did Haruki Murakami able to come out with the idea of little people coming out of the mouth of another person? You know, imaginative. Yan. And then, of course, sa literary writing, yung mga language na ginagamit natin, yung mga literary techniques like hyperbole, personification, parang yung sinabi ko kanina, the rose just turned violet. Ganyan. Personification mo. Imbes na yung tao yung mismong sabihin mo, ginawa mong tao yung rosas at naging violet, naging sad. Simile, metaphor. These are very old style of writing. You compare, contrast yung mga bagay-bagay. Yeah, that's okay. Kino-compare natin yung mga bagay-bagay. Parang ako dapat yung magko-compare ng sarili ko pero mas malaki na kasi si Virgo right now. I was just kidding. Kino-compare mo yung isang tao, yung this is one of the poems of one of my students. Dinescribe niya yung girlfriend niya. Tapos all the while, akala ko yung dinescribe niya dun sa girlfriend, ay dun sa poem niya is yung isang tao na parang kinamumuhian niya kasi dinescribe niya parang ang taba ng tao na yon. Tapos yung shape niya, ang daming curves, ganyan. And then sometimes nagsha-shiny yung mukha niya, parang nagmamantika ba? Normal naman yun sa mga malalaki, di ba? Ayan. So all the while I was thinking he was describing a woman na parang kinaiinisan niya or kinadidirian niya or kinamumuhian niya. At the end of the piece na ginawa niya, girlfriend niya pala yung dinidescribe niya. At mahal na mahal niya yung description ng girlfriend niya. Meron pa yung part doon na parang dinescribe niya kasi they went to the mall and that they are going to buy a showwear for the girl. Tapos walang magkakasya, nagagalit na daw yung sales lady kasi nga parang ang dami na nilang nire-request na sizes. Parang nilalabas na nila lahat ng sizes pero wala pa rin magkasya sa paa niya kasi malaki yung paa niya. Ayan. So when you're reading those ones, sa mga simile metaphor na ginamit niya doon is parang ang naiisip ko, ang bad naman ng tao na to, na describe niya lahat yung bad things na nangyari. Pero girlfriend niya pala yung dinidescribe niya in the end. So those are language that we can use to describe people, to describe the things, to describe experiences, situations that we would like to write about. Ano naman yung appeal nung literary work sa atin? Usually yung mga may appeal sa atin is yung essay. Isa yan, di ba? Pag nagbabasa kayo ng essay ng ibang tao, they're describing their personal experience, like tragedy in the family, paano sila get over sa kanilang mga heartbroken eras, paano sila nakakapagpursige despite na wala silang masyadong makain, pero nakakapag-top pa rin sa klase, ganyan. Ang appeal naman ng literary usually is yung ating emotion. Unang-una yan na nararamdaman ng readers, yung emotion ng literary pieces, it appeals to your emotion. Kapag binabasa ko ngayon yung Romeo and Juliet, hindi na siya nag-appeal. You know why? Because we've read that over and over and we know the story already. Usually, yung nakakapag-appeal sa emotions natin is yung first time nating mabasa. Yan. When Kobe Bryant died, his wife Vanessa Bryant wrote para siyang short letter addressed to Kobe Bryant. And then when she published it, ang daming nakarelate dun sa emotion niya about losing someone you love. Ayan. So isa yan sa mga ina-appeal ng ating literary pieces. Emotions. Mental, ganyan. Magsulat kaya ako ng poem about student na sobrang talino pero bumagsak. Yan. Ganun ba yung ibig sabihin, ma'am, nung appeal to mental? Hindi naman. Ang ibig sabihin niyan is yung meron kang binasang poem, meron kang binasang novel, for example, tapos yung kaalaman doon na nakita mo is parang nakadagdag doon sa kaalaman mo, nag-a-appeal yan sa mental mo. Yan. Personal experience din ito. I'm not really familiar with although criminology student pa ako noon. Hindi naman kami di-discuss ng mga international laws except of course nung mga specific lang. So we do not really read the first, second, third, fourth, fifth amendment of the United States. But through reading yung mga novel ng John Grisham, I became familiar with a lot of their provisions. Like the Fifth Amendment, meron silang describe doon about doon sa mga preso na wala doon sa First Amendment. Parang ganon. So yung mga literary pieces na yan, nag-a-appeal doon sa mental state ng isang tao, mental capability ng isang tao. Pwede niyang dagdagan yung information mo, pwede niyang i-correct yung information mo, nakaalaman mo. So nagagawa rin niya ng literary. And then of course, psychological, being na lahat na. Psychological means meron yung, like whenever I read yung, yung Katniss Everdeen novel, I was reading that like a few months ago. So, yung naisip ko naman doon is, this is a competition, yung entirety of the book. Oo nga, no, para siyang sa totoong buhay, na we all compete against each other. Parang pinapatay natin yung mga mga kasama natin just to win and follow the rules of a certain society. Nag-a-appeal ngayon sa psychological men. Inire-relate mo ngayon sa buhay mo. Parang nangyayari yan ngayon, diba? We're losing friends, we're ditching friends, we're bitching friends even. Sorry for the word. Because of our political things. And at the end of the day, para tayong naging puppet nung, political entity na yan, political process na yan. Nakakapag-appeal yung mga pieces na yan dun sa ating psychological. Yan. Mayroon tayong mga nare-realize about certain things in life na parang effect yan sa ating nung literary pieces. Paano naman yung structure ng literary? Yan. So unlike sports news that you need to have a lead, a body, and a conclusion or the ending, yan. Must din na merong mga titles ang mga news. Sa literary, pwedeng walang title. There was once a competition that I have submitted. I think that was in Tagaytay na wala akong title. Tapos tinanong nung nagbabantay, ma'am, title niyo po. It doesn't have a title. So yung structure ng literary pieces, complex yung mga sentences. It does not follow the rule na merong subject and predicate to make it a complete sentence. Rule yan, di ba, sa English. Unless you are writing a phrase, you have to have a subject and a predicate, and you have to have a punctuation mark. Ganyan. Hindi yan must na rule kapag literary ang pinag-uusapan. Unless, of course, novel yung sinulat mo, kailangan mong isulat yung buong sentence, syempre pa. Pero kapag poem yan, prose yan, hindi yan nasusunod. Complex yung sentence structure natin. Yan. And then we have yung linguistic aspects, like yung dialect. I have written in our local dialect here, like Kankanawi Ibaloy. That's one of the local dialects in the Cordilleras. Although, I like writing mostly in English, and I do compete in Filipino, ganyan. So medyo mga ganun yung linguistic aspect. Meron kasi yung kapag nagsusulat ka ng tula, halimbawa, mas na ilalagay mo yung ibig sabihin nung gusto mong sabihin kapag nasusulat mo yun sa sarili mong salita. Like in Ilocano or Iloco, meron kayo yung mga words, for example, na wala naman sa iba. Like, meron yung, lagi itong sinasabi ng estudyante ko, aman ma'am, aman. I thought they were saying no to me. Ang aman, they're affirming pala yung sinasabi ko. So ayun, kapag ilagay natin yung sa literary, ayan, yung inyong mga specific words sa Ilocano na hindi naiintindihan ng iba, mas na-explain nyo yung gusto nyong sabihin, like experience mo, halimbawa gusto mong gawing poem, mas na-i-explain mo yung experience mo dun sa poem by using your own dialect. Yan. Kaya meron na lang tayong mga translations later on. And then ambiguity is not clear. Siyempre ano yan, gusto mong, may mga literary writers na gustong masyadong artistic yung kanyang pagkakasulat. Like, the rose just turned violet, for example. It's not even clear how did they rose become violet or why, when, diba? Ambiguity, hindi siya masyadong clear. Hindi siya yung kapag parang sports writing na sinalpak mo yung 5Ws 1H, alam na agad. Ganyan. So ambiguous minsan yung structure ng ating literary pieces. Audience. Ayan. Sa audience din naman ng sports writing, it includes all of this, like young and old, male, female, all races, just as long as they're interested to you read the sports writing or sports article rather. Parang sa audience din natin is parang ganito rin lang. Young and old, they can read literary pieces. Male, female, do not contest me, LGBTQ included in here, of course. I'm just talking about the, biological being ng mga tao. Diba? Kasi sa birth certificate naman natin doon, walang LGBTQ na nakalagay. Male, female lang. So that's what I'm talking about. But please do not degrade naman sasabihin nyo, hindi na ini-include ni ma'am yung rainbow. LGBTQ included dito sa male and female na audience ng ating literary pieces. And then of course, all races. Hindi, how do I term it? Hindi issue ang race when it comes to the audience of a literary piece. Not unlike in sports, merong ganyan. In the Philippines, ang isa sa mga Filipinos, kapag sinabi mong sports yan, number one na alam ng ibang bansa dyan, boxing. Yan. Of course, because of Manny Pacquiao and the other boxers. At isa pa is basketball. Diba? Everywhere in the Philippines, you can find basketball courts. Everybody plays basketball, whether they know or not, yung rules ng ating basketball. Ganyan. And the audience also, diba? Maraming, parang alam nila lahat mag-basketball kahit di naman nila alam. May mga nagtatalpak pa nga ng basketball online. Mga audience, kala mo alam nila. Yan. So, it's different when it comes to literary. It does not appeal to being your race, being a Filipino. Parang si Haruki Murakami, pag nagsusulat siya, may mga friends tayo from China that really likes the writing. Philippines, Asia, America. Ganyan. It appeals to all agencies. It appeals to all audiences, rather. So all races yung usually ay audience ng ating literary. As to the content naman of the literary pieces, usually they are messages. Messages, hidden man yan or hindi. Sa mga literary pieces, like in the poems, meron yung mga ginagawa nilang poem na parang tinatago pa nila kung ano yung totoo. Parang yung sinabi ko kanina sa inyo, parang describe niya. Parang yung tone kasi ng poem niya pag binabasa niyo is parang naiinis siya, nandidiri siya sa taba, sa mantika ng mukha, nagmamantika yung mukha. Minsan, pag nililipad na yung hangin yung buhok niya sa mukha niya, dumidikit na. May mga ganun kasi siyang binanggit. So parang yung message ng poem na yun is hatred. Only to find out na endearment niya pala yun sa girlfriend niya. At nakikita niya yung mga bagay na yun because very observant siya dun sa girlfriend niya. So yung content usually ng ating mga literary pieces are messages. Ganyan. So parang kayo, uso pa ba ang love letter? I'm not so sure. Pag gusto niyo magsulat, ang love letter naman hindi lang para dun sa mga nililigawan niyo, halimbawa sa mga girlfriends niyo. Mag love letter din naman kayo sa parents niyo. Mang, salamat, 20 nga balon ko, di maimanay, 50 ko ma. Although, joke lang yun ha. Messages. Literary pieces really contains messages. Yan. Yun nga sinasabi ko sa inyo kanina, yung binabasa ko yung novel nung si Katniss Everdeen. Ano yung title nun? Wala, si Katniss Everdeen. Parang may nakikita lang naman ako personally na, parang ang gustong ibig sabihin ng author na ito is ganito, ganyan. And then I did a research on where the idea came from when she was writing. Tapos parang medyo tumama nga yung iniisip ko na parang baka may nakita siyang something in the society. Kaya niya nasulat yung mga ganito kung saan nagmula yung kanyang idea. And then in-explain ng author na nakikita niya kasi sa mga kabataan ngayon yung competition na ganyan. They're competing, they're willing to die for an entity that they do not even understand sometimes. Parang tayo, we even compete for their political principle, hindi man natin naiintindihan. Bakit ka BBM? Dahil ganito yung pinaniniwalaan mo. Bakit ka Lenny? Dahil ganito yung paniniwalaan mo. Ayan. And in literary pieces, there are messages like those that are hidden when they write about. Parang yung sa novel na yun. And then another is yung character story. Content din yan. I call it selfish. Personally, mga selfish pieces of literary kapag yung selfish na yan ay about sa character nung nagsulat. To Kill a Mockingbird, yung favorite daw ni Lenny na na piece, halimbawa, character story yan. Ano yung pinapakitang character doon sa Kill a Mockingbird na yan? Doon sa Romeo and Juliet din, character. Hopeless, parang hopeless romantic naman yung ating writer, which is Shakespeare. Although Shakespeare is said to not really into that thing of being very romantic. Ganyan. But most often than not, yung literary pieces are character stories. And then theme setting, yung may mga themes na mga stories, may mga poems. Like John Grisham, always ang theme niya is about law, the Western law. Diba? Theme niya yan. I can tell you over and over again about his styles because I have been reading him for years and that's what I am familiar with that I can share. If you have other authors like Dan Brown, ayan, medyo controversial yung sinulat niya doon, di ba? The Code. I think you know The Code already, mga ganun. May mga themes na yan na kapag binabasa yung mga contents, nakikita mo yung similarity ng kanilang mga pieces that they have themes. Tom Clancy, one of the writers also that writes about fighter planes and he describes all the fighter planes like the bombers, the hawks. Napaghahalata yung mga binabasa ko mga ganun. Yung mga theme lahat ng novel niya, they are focused on that one. Yung contents ng kanyang mga sinulat ay may theme lagi. So may mga authors na ganun. And then, of course, poetry yung pag-uusapan natin. I'd like to speak sana about novel, pero medyo mahaba yata yun when it comes to workshop. So, we go to poetry. And sa mga competitions din naman, I'm not so sure if the Pioneer had joint competitions before, like press conferences, ganyan. So, Rodlan, meron ba kayong competitions that you have joined, like poetry things? But anyways, kapag mga competitions kasi poetry, lagi yung mga pinapagawa ng mga judges. So I think it's safe that we focus on poetry. There are types of poetry, and yes, this is from Google. Itong image na to, this is from Google. Because it is as is yung iti-discuss ko is nakalagay dito. So ano yung mga types ng poetry na nakikita natin? Narrative, it tells a story. No matter how boring the story. No matter how sad the story, because it's a tragic story. It's narrative when it tells that. Ballads, these are stories that are set to music. There are cultures that are very good in these ballads. Like dito sa amin, pag may namatay, meron pupunta yung mga elderly. They tell the story, they tell stories through a song. Those are ballads na sinasabi. Yung mga ballads na mga kanta natin, halimbawa, sino yung mga balladiers natin? Like A1, Westlife, Backstreet Boys, mga panahon yata namin yun. Those are balladiers because yung mga stories is set into music. But there are also ballads na hindi sumisikat, kagaya ng sinabi ko, nandito lang sa kultura natin. Like, when there are weddings, there are deaths, elderly come, they sing, they tell a story through singing or through songs. Those are ballads. And then yung lyric na tinatawag natin, the voice of the speaker, ito, yung lyric. It's the name per se, the lyric. You wrote it because you own the voice that wrote that specific story or that specific poem, and it's called lyric. Personal experience, personal life. And then concrete, shape poem naman ito. May mga kaibigan tayong mahilig maggawa ng ganito. Like, I'll show you, like for example, a bottle. Yung shape ng poem mo talaga, shape ng bottle. It doesn't necessarily mean that you are talking about this bottle, pero yung shape ng poem mo when you're writing is a bottle. Concrete poems ang tawag sa mga yon. And then haiku, one of the feeling ng lahat alam na nila ang haiku because they've read haikus. But anyways, this is one of the most popular forms of poems, Japanese form of writing poetry. Meron yung ibang magsusulat daw ng haiku is 575. Meron yung iba is 757. Yung measurement nung per line ng haiku. But anyways, haikus are Japanese poems, very, very short. And that usually they talk about nature, they talk about experiences with nature. And then free verse, this is my favorite because I don't have to violate any rules. I don't have to follow the 757 rule of haiku. Free verse, free flow. It doesn't have any rhyme. It doesn't have any pattern. It doesn't have any shape. It's not supposed to, be lyrical. So free verse, you can write about anything. Although ito kasi is very broad. So meron yung mga free verse na parang hindi na siya poem. Parang sinulat mo lang out of nowhere. So hindi na siya nagiging poem. Ganun. And then sonnet, 14 lines with rhyme scheme. Ayan, yung medyo mahirap nang gawin. You have rhyming every end of the sentences. Or kahit hindi lang sa end words, at the middle, meron din yung mga rhyming. And then limericks, yung lines 1 to 4 are rhymings, 3 and 5 are rhyme. 5 lines ito, ladies and gents, yung limericks, baka hindi masyadong nababasa or hindi kayo masyadong nakakita ng ganito. Lines 1, 2, and 4, may rhyming words yung mga end words nila. 3 and 5, sila naman yung magka-rhyme. Hindi sila lahat diretso parehas. And I'll show you an example. I think I have. Oh, yeah. This is haiku. See? So they're talking about an old band, Matsubashu, one of the popular also writers of this one. It says at the end that this poem of Japanese, originally Japanese, containing 3 lines. Ayan yung rule na sinasabi ko, 575. Ano yung binibilang nating 575 dito sa haiku? Binibilang natin dyan yung division ng mga syllables. An old silent pond. So 5. Syllables yan na hindi siya per word. Yan yung rule naman ng haiku. And sabi ko nga, most often than not, they talk about nature. So in this case, the author, Matsubashu, is talking about the old pond. A frog jumps into the pond. Let's count if that is 7 syllables. A frog jumps into the pond. So it's 7. Parang iko-correct ko pa kung hindi siya 575, very old na itong haiku. I'm just presenting to you guys, ha? And then splash, silence again. So it's 575, and it's talking about nature. And of course, it's Japanese. And so that is one example of haiku. Ito yung example ng limerick na sinasabi ko kanina, ladies and gents. Limericks, these are humorous poems. Hindi naman siya necessary dapat humorous para lang kasi siyang witty. Witty ba? Hindi siya masyadong seryoso. Yung sinasabi like, there was an old man with a beard. Ganyan. And if you can see, yung lines kung saan magkakatulad, ayan. So, 1, 2, and 5. Magkatulad yan. 3 and 4. Yeah. Yep. There was an old man with a beard, and then feared, and then beard again. And then there's another one, yung hen and wren, magka-rhyming yan. And it is talking about yung wittiness of a man with a beard. That is limerick. Oh, free verse. Yeah, I did include pala a free verse. Yan, walang limitation ang free verse. Although may mga kasamaan tayong writers, like sa Ubog, we have an organization here in the Cordilleras. It's called Ubog. You know what's Ubog, right? It's a, what do you call it, spring? Ubog. We termed it as that because we would like the organization to, spring of ideas for literary pieces. And it's been going for years. But anyways, hindi yung mga free verse actually na sinasubmit ng mga kasamahan is parang unlimited. Nakakabasa ka ng mga poems nila about a certain experience na akala mo sobrang hirap ng experience. Yun pala yung experience din is nahihirapan lang siyang mag-poop sa CR. Ganun katindi yung free verse, wala siyang limitation. Everything goes, any situation goes. So let's take a look at this free verse, example about a fog. You know what's a fog? I forgot how do you term it in Ilocano yung fog, but it's a fog. Fog is a regular thing dito sa bahay namin. Like, mamayang 3 p.m., may fog na dyan sa pintuan namin, ganyan, sa bintana namin. But let's take a look sa free verse. The fog comes on little cat feet. Walang rhyming, nakita nyo? Walang bilang yung mga words. It sits looking over harbor and city, on silent hunches, and then moves on. Dinescribe nyo lang yung pagdating at pag-alis ng pusa. Right? Nung free verse, wala siyang sinusundang specific lines, specific na mga rhyming words. Ganyan ang free verse. Ayan, wala na pala. There are other things that we would discuss if you'd like a copy of the entire, what do you call this? Literary things that we can discuss. Like for example, nakalagay doon kasi sa copy ko yung what are the different prose, how do you write it, or may mga tips on how to write it, yung drama, yung novel. And meron pang ibang examples na nakalagay doon. Like for example, how do you able to choose the right words when writing a poem, a prose. Meron pa doon yung eulogy, pagsusulat doon sa mga namatay na halimbawa loved one, ganyan. Pero hindi ko na in-include dito. I was thinking about the time when I was writing this one. And anyway, I'm going to let you guys write something. Meron tayong theme, pero yung isusulat ninyo is a poem. So pwede siyang free verse, pwede naman siyang haiku if you can write haiku, and other forms as well, limericks, and other forms ng poem na tinatawag natin. So before I will give you also your theme about the literary piece or the poem that you're going to submit later on, I would like to open the mic, ladies and gents, for your questions or sharing that you would like to do. Ayan, may nakalagay pala sa ating chat box. Yes, Eric Santos, one of the balladeers, popular balladeers. Good ballads as well.
Yes, ma'am. I guess there is one question again coming from Miss Shalimay Garcia.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Miss Shalimay, you can, I think, open your microphone. Is she allowed to?
Shali, you can now unmute.
Ayan, baka nagkaroon ng trouble lang sa kanyang microphone. So, ay, hindi daw siya maka-unmute.
Okay, hello again, ma'am. Can you hear me well?
Yes po.
So thank you. Actually, it's not really a question, but I just want to ask for a tips or some advices, especially for those beginners or yung mga wala pa pong experience sa writing but they have their skills. Can you give us some tips or advisors on how to start or where to start and how to be a good writer in the near future?
Um, yeah. Advice on how to be a good writer, I think that will come, innate. That will come naturally. And then you will know already. Mafe-feel mo naman yan if, oh, okay, I think I'm good with it because you're satisfied with your work. It doesn't mean naman kasi, let's distance ourselves from the fact na, halimbawa nakipag-compete kayo, no? Tapos di ka nakuha dun sa top 7. Top 7 ba yung kinukuha ngayon dun sa nationals? I think top 7. I experienced this firsthand. Nung hindi ako nakuha sa first na literary writing ko, parang feeling ko, let's take the word, ang bobo ko. Hindi ako marunong magsulat. I'm not a good writer of literary because, yan, I failed. Let's distance ourselves from that. Number 1 yan. Distance nyo yung mga sarili nyo na, ano nga ba yung, how do you term it? Paano nga ba nakikita ng society kayo as a writer? Wag nyo isipin yun as a writer. So, isa yan ha. To be a good writer, do not think that you are bad because the society says so. To be a good writer, do not listen to the society when they say that you are not a good writer because you do not have a certain style. Do not listen to those ones. That's number 1. You are a good writer in yourself. And where to start? I have, in 1997, 1996 yata, I think, 1996, I was still in grade school. I started writing poems. Yan. Ay mga sinusulat ko hindi about crush. Ito yung about sa mga gusto kong suntukin ng mga kaklase. Nagbaboxing na kasi ako when I was in elementary. So, gusto yung mga sinusulat ko yung poems na gusto kong suntukin yung mga kaklase ko na pakalaing. Alam mo yung term na pakalaing? Nagmamagaling. Marami kasi ang kaklase na mga anak mayaman. Tapos, papakalaing dito yung Miss Universe. Ganun yung mga sinusulat kong poem. And when I go back right now, where I am right now, I'm now in my 30s. Kapag binabalikan ko yun, sobrang tawa ko. Pero sobrang na-appreciate ko yung sarili ko when I was there. Start there. Just write about how you feel. Free verse. Hindi mo naman kailangan mag-haiku kaagad kapag di mo talaga familiar yung haiku. Huwag pilitin. Alam niyo yung half-baked na tinatawag? Even though na, ay, ang galing na magsulat ng haiku, pero yung mga yun pala is hindi galing sa kanya yung idea mismo. Yung art mismo. Half-baked yung mga yun. These are not good pieces. So, where to start? You start with what you think, how you feel. That's where you start. Ink it. Write it down right now. Like, I have a piece of paper right now that I'm writing. This is a scrap here in the house with a lot of scraps from my son. I write about this one. I'll show you another one. Nagkalat yung sa table ko kasi. I have this one, an index card. Normal pag instructor ka, may mga gusto kang isulat dito about your students habang nagdi-discuss ka. Sometimes I write poems on this one. Sometimes I write ideas on this one. Start there. Start whatever you want to write. Start whenever you want. Huwag mong pilitin yung sarili mo na ballpen, notebook. Ano kaya susulat ko? Ano kaya susulat mo? That's not a good literary piece. Unless you are pressured on a competition, as I have said earlier. So then you start there. And then kapag gusto mo nang mag-improve, parang sa painting din ito eh. Paint your brush. Paint whatever that you would like to do. Put whatever color that you want. Put every emotion that you want. And then kapag gusto mo nang mag-improve or gusto mo nang may certain kasing susundan eh, ay parang gusto kong magsulat ng ganitong style ng poem. Start there. Wag ka lang manggagaya ng mga topics. Wag ka lang manggagaya kung ano yung mga inputs na ilalagay mo din sa input mo. Ay, kopya dati pero i-edit ko dagiti words na tapos nagapo kanya. No. That's not a literary piece. You're just copying. Ganyan. So, there's where you start. Start from your personal experience. Start from free verse. At kapag medyo nakukuha mo na, may isulat mo din naman yan. Like yung limericks. Ayan. Gusto mo na magkaroon ng rhyme, lalabas at lalabas din yan naturally. So that's how you become a good writer. Pushing through and advising yourself that you can do it, and telling yourself that you're a good writer. Kahit di ka ma-appreciate ng boyfriend, girlfriend mo, or yung family mo, it doesn't matter. It is you yourself that's writing. And you're not writing for them. Unless you're writing for a competition. For example, ako yung judge, you're writing for me. So you have to impress me. But as far as I can say, when it comes to literary pieces, that even you're submitting it for your school paper, you start with the real you, your emotion, your raw ideas. Ang dami ko na sinabi. Anyways, I think that's where you can start. So, Mom Shelly May, I think, I guess, or I hope that I have did impart an answer for your question. And thank you as well. So are there other things that you'd like to ask? You'd like to know? Pwede naman you'd like to share. Hindi lang ito question and answer ha. Baka may gusto kayong i-share na poem dyan, for example. Ayan. I-live critic natin or live na pakinggan natin. Yung kanina yung sinasabi ko, literary are written works. Meron kasi ngayon yung poetry in motion na parang ngayon, nag-uusap tayo, tapos pwede mo lang sabihin yung gusto mong sabihin in a free verse. Hindi yan necessary na nasulat pero nasabi. And those are also types of literary. Meron ba kayong ganun? I'm not so sure if you're familiar. Meron kasing ganun dito sa amin. Kapag may namatay, may mga pupunta na elders and then they sing eulogy to the dead, pero hindi nakasulat yun. Sila lang yung nakakaalam, tapos hindi na nila kayang ulitin. Those are also forms of poetry as well. So other things that you'd like to share and know and ask about?
Rhoda?
I think there are no other questions. So now, at this juncture, let us call on students to share their takeaways about the given discussion earlier by our speaker. May we request Mr. Mark Clifford Jan Manangaan to share his takeaways for today's session.
Hello everyone, can you hear me?
Yes.
So let me start with the sports writing first. Here are my takeaways. First, as mom said, sports writing is easy to tell, hard to write. Easy to tell because it is like storytelling. However, it is hard to write because it is storytelling with a mix of elements and techniques of journalism. Next, it is hard to record, easy to watch. Hard to record because you need to consider, you need to write each factors, each elements that is happening in the game. The players, the scores, what set or quarter the play happened, and the techniques or skills they did. And it is easy to watch because you are just spectating. You don't need to write anything, you're just enjoying the game. And lastly, as mom said, you need to have some knowledge, even it is just basic. You need to have some knowledge about the sports you are writing. You need to know the rules, the sport lingos or the languages they are using in that particular sport. And do not write about sports you are not familiar with. That's all for sports writing. Next, let's go for the literary writing. First, you can write literary writing almost anywhere, anytime, any mood, and you can write any forms, genres, subgenres, and topics you want. The purpose of literary writing is not only to entertain or amuse the readers, but also to entertain yourself and amuse yourself. However, you need to mind the language you are using. Well, you can use simple words, but it is better if you are being creative, imaginative, if you are incorporating your feelings, emotions, and using literary techniques. And lastly, you do not need to follow the rules at all because in literary writing, you can use complex structure, you can use your own dialect, and you can use ambiguity. That's all, ma'am. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Mark Clifford Manangaan. Now, thank you, ma'am, for this insightful presentation. Surely, these are all beneficial to us as writers of the student publication. Let us give another virtual clap to our first day speaker. So, Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you found this session today as informative and useful. May we now request Mr. Rodlan Alvendo, another technical advisor of the Pioneer, to award the certificate of our lecturer for today.
All right, thank you, Miss Orada. Let me share my screen with you. Can you see it now? Is it visible already? Can you see it? All right,
Yeah.
so Pan Pacific University Certificate of Participation is
Yes.
presented to Ms. Sharma Devaya for actively participating during the journalism lecture series and competition given this 4th day of May at the Pan Pacific University, Urdaneta City, Pangasinan, Philippines. Signed by the Dean of the Romeo Padilla School of Education and Arts, Dr. Virgo Clemente Lopez. All right, so thank you so much, Ms. Sharma Devaya, for sharing with us not only your presence and time, but for sharing your knowledge and experience from the topic that you've discussed for today's session, ma'am. And on behalf of the editorial board, we would like to commend everyone for participating in this particular session that we'll have today. And we are hoping actually for your participation in the next sessions that we will be having. Mr. Renny Boy?
We'll now have a photo ops with our speaker and together with the participants. Please open your cameras. All right. Sir Rodman, we're going to take the screenshots of our photos.
All right, for the first slide, just continue to open your camera and then I will just move on to the next screen. First screen, 1, 2, 3, smile. All right, next screen. Just continue smiling and showing your beautiful faces. Thank you so much. All right, we are now done with the photo ops, Mr. Reneboy.
All right, so that ends our webinar for today. But before we move to our next part, may we know how you're feeling right now by sending in the chat box or appropriate emoji that will describe what you feel as of the moment, guys? Okay, so we have heart, clap. Okay. Those emojis are really overwhelming. Rhoda?
Those who are in Facebook Live, you may send emoji via comment section to express your feeling right now. How about you, partner? How did you feel about our webinar for today?
Well, of course, words cannot express how grateful I am for today's event, partner, and we are apparently enriched with moral, spiritual, academic support activities such as this webinar, of course, with our great speaker, Ma'am Sham Divaya. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you,
Um,
Mr.
Thank you as well for having me, Dr. Virgo and Sir Rodlan, for the invitation. There are a lot of things that I really want to talk about. Tiyata kasha talaga, but if there are times as well that um, you'd like to know more, baka mag-open ng competition, pasya na lang kami sa Pan Pacific soon. Malapit lang naman ako, Ilocos Norte lang naman yung aking venue. So that's it.
Thank you so much, Mom. All right, I'll be sending the link of the evaluation form or the link where you're going to submit your outputs on our chat box. Okay. All right, so to wrap up this webinar, of course, we will be extending our heartfelt appreciation to those who supported us to make this session possible, extending it to our president, Dr. Rhonda Padilla, Chief Operating Officer, Dr. Engelbert Pasag, of course, our resource speaker for today, Ma'am Sharma Divaya, deans of different schools, teaching and non-teaching staffs, students and participants from other schools. We do really appreciate your presence today, and as well as the universities. Thank you so much. And so I see elementary school and at the same time LGU from a municipality. Thank you so much. But of course, Rhoda.
And not to forget the committee who had worked hard for this day to be a success, headed by the Dean of the Romy Padilla School of Education and Arts, Dr. Virgo C. Lopez. Once again, Pan Pacifics, thank you so much. I hope you all have a great day. So to formally close this program, please stand by for the Dreams PCST.
Tomorrow is here. We hold the key to open the doors where dreams become reality. We loyal daughters and sons gratefully offer praise to one, to PCST with honor and pride. We sing of thee, our own faithful guide of science and technology to better lives here at home and o'er the sea. Let your fame be known, hail PCST. When we think of the teachers and friends we have made, who transform our lives as they do, we know distance and time cannot steal them away. In our hearts burns a flame ever true. Tomorrow is here. We hold the key. The future is ours, and dreams are now reality. Standing tall in your light where glory shines, with our heads held high, we sing of thee, PCST. Sing praise to thee, PCST.
That ends our webinar for today. Once again, my name is Rani Boy Rico.
And this is Radha K. Bulaso. We are now signing off as your host for today's program. See you
See you
all
all
again
again, guys, on May 10 for our
for
next
our next
session.
session. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Congrats, everyone. Ate Sharma, salamat.
Like West Virgo, I sent you a message na.
Yeah, I'll see you in Baguio next week if we have time.
Okay, that'll be great. Sige.